go. Turn my logo back on. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another scintillating episode of Max's Models Livestream. I'm going to turn this light down just a little. Just so you guys don't have a bunch of glare off my ever-balding head. And let's turn this down just a skosh. There we go. And I'm going to turn it down more than that. Okay. Oh, I know what I'm forgetting, to turn on the light in front of me. Oh, blinded by the light. There we go. Now it's working out a little balance. Okay, well, guys, welcome to me in beautiful 1080p. We had to let Ken go because he is driving, and we didn't want to go out on the interweb live with him operating a motor vehicle. Something happened, and then I get sued. But Steve's on board, and we got... What? Hey, say hi.
Hi, guys.
Give me a 5 count, Steve.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, you guys can hear Steve okay? Max the Road Warrior. So anyway, in case you guys didn't catch up, it's going to start off as sort of a 70s oriented thing. I watched a couple of videos about the 70s and I remembered so much stuff, and so I went and got all those movie posters you saw that intertwined with the models. All those models, except for 1 or 2, were new tools in the 70s, and the movie posters from the 70s, and I kind of was trying to put together like a movie poster, you go see the movie, followed by the model it might inspire you to buy. And we'll be looping it at the end of the show, so you can watch it and see what you think. Because after I saw movies like Apocalypse Now or something, the first thing I want to do is go buy a model Huey. Well, where to begin? Okay.
You know what would have been a great movie?
What?
Helicopter? If you would have had the Huey, that it would have played The Flight of the Valkyrie.
Yeah. that might have helped sell kits. Yep. Complete with sound card or record of him Wagner, you know. I tell you a movie that could have been, I mean, it was written in the early 70s, I think. I don't know if you guys have read the book Chicken Hawk. It's written by a Vietnam helicopter pilot. His experience as a UH-1 pilot during the Vietnam War. It's an interesting read. It's not like there's any great plot to it. It's just his tour of duty. And so that apparently after the war, like a lot of guys, people forget that in 74, 75, there were out of army, out of work helicopter pilots falling out of trees. And this was just about the time how can I put it? The unauthorized importation of not very well controlled substances was getting popular. And some of the guys fell into that, and I think I think the guy who wrote the book got arrested for that, but I don't know if they ever got a conviction on him. And being a native Floridian, finding out that someone had gotten grabbed by the feds jumping out the window of a DC-3 or something, with a bunch of bales of marijuana in the back, almost became a cliche. But anyway, by the way, speaking of flying, real quick, guys. Oregon Air Show's coming up soon. Glue Trooper said I might want to toss that out to you guys. He's been there. He's going for his 3rd trip. And apparently it's a really good air show. And I imagine they probably got the Paul Allen collection out there. So should be a lot of great stuff. So if you're up in the Northwest and that's your bag, I know if I could, I'd go there. I love shows like that. So, anywho. So Steve, I was thinking about, you and I talked about kits that should have been made.
Yes.
And some Glue Troopers sent me some ideas we're going to talk about in a minute, but something popped into my mind, and because we all are probably familiar with the old sitcom Gilligan's Island, right? And
yes.
The boat used was, I believe, a 36 or 38 foot Wheeler cabin cruiser. And so I went to Scalemates to look, and I thought, I seem to remember seeing a Gilligan's Island model. Well, I must have seen Gilligan's Island lunch boxes, but there was no Gilligan's Island model. And the thing is that turns out that ITC and Aurora each made a Wheeler cruiser, cabin cruiser, in different scales. Aurora's was 1 to 43, and the motorized one from ITC was like 1 to 24. But I was thinking, how did now the Aurora one came out about the year of the show, or just a year before the show. The other one had been 67, so I think the show had been on 1 season. And I'm thinking, why didn't, Aurora was so big into to getting, tie-ins with Hollywood. And I'm like, they got the mold for the boat, or a similar boat, one close enough they could have passed it off to a bunch of kids. I'm like, why didn't they just, how many could they have sold if they put Ginger and Marianne on there, and said, Gilligan's Island boat? And,
well, a lot of them were life size.
Not when I'm sipping my cough medicine, man.
Okay.
I'm gonna. Okay.
The picture that you put up of the Aurora one.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it had a great box for the kid.
Uh-huh.
And all you would have had to do was, have a burst with a picture of Gilligan or, the members of the crew, and it would have been. I think it would have sold well.
Oh, I have no doubt that's all you'd had. You could have taken that very kit and you put SS Minnow decals in it. By the way, just to give you more information you want, guys, the reason I got onto this was I stumbled on to a video. Believe it or not, the SS Minnow from the show is still a working pleasure craft up in the Great Northwest or Canada, Vancouver. I don't know if it's which. I think it was Vancouver, British Columbia. And I found a website that was kind of dedicated to the show and the boat. And I thought, as long as this was a missed opportunity for the model makers, if you guys don't mind, some of you probably already know this because I know how a lot of you guys are big television trivia guys, so you're going to appreciate this. There were actually 4 boats that were the SS Minnow. And as a lot of movie buffs know, that there were 2 different beginnings. The first season and then the second 2. They're also different songs. The song was changed after the first season. In fact, the professor and Marianne didn't get opening credits until the second season. It just says, and the rest. Well, so I just thought we'd take a second for kicks and giggles, because that's what we do on this channel, to go over the differences. And it just so happened that there was a little bit of a fan storm in the comment section, so I thought I'd clear a few things up. And you're going to have to keep a... yes, my eyes are in fact blue. You're going to have, Steve, you're going to have to keep an eye on the comments while I go over this, because I'm sure that people are going to be throwing a lot of stuff. So, the black of first season, black and white. The column on the left are screen grabs from the first season, the opening episode. Yes, that is shot in Hawaii. That you can see on both of them, the color, and you can see it's just a sticker, a piece of paper, says SS Minnow on the bow to identify the ship. Yes, supposedly it was named after Manow, the guy who was head of the what is the one that handles airwaves, not FC, not Federal Trade Commission, Federal Communications Commission, the one who called television a vast wasteland. So the name of the boat apparently was a stab at him. He only had one N. I think it was M-I-N-O-W or M-I-N-O-E. But anyway, but of course the Minnow was a great name for it. Now, if you look on the boat label number 1 in the center top of the photo, the black and white image, that was a rental boat. They rented that in Hawaii for one day just to get these shots. And you'll notice it's different than the other boats. Number 2, the one on the right, and I'm going to show you some more pictures of it in a second. The one on the upper right, that was a boat that actually towed out to Kauai, beached it, and then knocked the holes in it to film the pilot episode and the opening scenes. And, of course, once they knocked the holes in it, there was no towing it back. But then when the show got renewed, now we're in if you go back to the left side, the color photos column going up and down, that was a reshoot with the new song. That was filmed at Marina Del Rey in California, which is ironically right where my hotel's at when I have the joy of staying in LAX. Where it says SS Minnow in color, a lot of people think that is the professor, and it may be. The general theory is that his character was supposed to be he went on the cruise to do an experiment. He was putting equipment on the boat, but you can't see close enough to tell. For all I can tell, that guy might be on the boat next door. But anyway, that's the story everybody goes with. And you got the Gilligan and the skipper reprising reenacting their roles again. Now, the one that's down on the lower left, the boat in the color picture leaving Marina Del Rey, that is the one, the SS Minnow, that's still in service today. I I don't know about the one on the top left, but it was just hired for one day. But that's the one that's the SS Minnow that's up in Vancouver still giving rides and stuff. And the guy jokes he always does 2 hour and 59-minute cruises because he can't give away a 3-hour cruise. The one on the bottom right was a studio prop built from scratch. It's completely hollow. It's just a shell. And it was made specifically what you see there. Now, boat number 1. This is the one they towed out from Kauai to Kauai to knock the holes in to make the beached boat. This is the one they towed out there, and I'm sure they got it dirt cheap. Probably didn't even have an engine or anything in it. And this is the rental boat, which was called the Islander, and it said it was owned by the Maggie Joe Sports Company. I have no idea if it's still around. It very well may be. I believe that CG, that Coast Guard number on the bow, may actually be its real number. And boat number 3, this is the one we all know. This is the one that's the Wheeler 38-foot Playmate, built in 64, so it was built just before the show began. And it has an express bridge on it, which I think has since, was extended and might have been cut back. It's a slightly different condition now. And boat number 4, and here you want a bar bet with this. This is the prop boat. Now apparently, and this doesn't really make much sense because you can see there's clearly ocean behind it. But apparently most of the show was shot on a back lot, and they had to cut the boat down because buildings and stuff were in the way, but apparently not for these scenes. I'm not really sure exactly what the story is on that. But anyway, the reason I went through all that, and by the way, Dawn Wells was on the boat recently. We're going to talk about her in just a second because that's every young man's favorite subject. But Dawn Wells actually, just a few years before she passed away, sadly, she went out and went for a ride on the boat on the Minnow. She went to British Vancouver, and there's a YouTube video about it out there, which I forgot to link. And just because we love trivia here at Max's Models, you guys are going to get a kick out of this. And some of you guys already know this. I'll ask it, and then I'll put the picture up. Does anybody know what Dawn Wells was famous for before Gilligan's Island? And yes, she was a working actress who had a lot of roles, but she actually had another great claim to fame, and that was she was Miss Nevada 1959. And she competed on behalf of the state of Nevada in the Miss America pageant in 1960. And that picture, bottom center in front of the United Airlines Convair 340, she is with Miss Hawaii. And of course, they're posing for glamour shots and everything. But
don't see the picture.
It'll pop up in a second. Let me zoom in.
There we go. It just popped up.
Yeah, let me make it bigger. I mean, come on. You want to see Dawn Wells in full? There we go. You know, stretch a little bigger than that too, actually. At Max's Models, and I actually have a model, a beauty model. By the way, guys, if you didn't know this, I got some weird emails because apparently in Germany there's a Max's Model that is for like fashion models, and thank you.
Maybe you should trade, live stream content one day.
No, you see, I like breathing.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like,
It can't do it.
I get that. I get away with that exactly none times. It's the old joke, any ship can be a minesweeper once. But anyway, we're all big television, movie, and trivia fans. I just thought you guys might appreciate that. I was going to ask Ginger or Mary Ann, but I guarantee it, as always, Mary Ann usually gets 60% of the votes on that one. But the big question then is Samantha or Jeannie, and I'm a Jeannie guy, but Samantha seems to win. But anyway, so I just thought you guys would get a giggle out of that. And there's the stuff on the 4 boats. And that was on a Gilligan's Island website. And the people, they're not exactly Star Trek insane about it like some of the Trekkies are. But, there are a lot of folks who get into it. And I read the book by Russell Johnson here on Gilligan's Isle. And you go out and listen to Dawn Wells or Tina Louise talking about Sherwood Schwartz and all the crap that would go on, like how he had to try to promote the series, and she goes, he had to like sing the song in front of corporate executives and everything, and do a dance and stuff. I'm like, it was. I probably would have done that just to see, sure. That would have been funny just to see an old guy like Sherwood Schwartz, yeah. So you sing this song, you do.
Meanwhile, it's a good thing Mike's not on. He'd do 20 minutes on the plane.
Convair, or it's Convair 340. It's the only Convair that United flew that I could find in their history. I don't know why they didn't go with any of the others. But anyway, that kind of gets back to what I was talking about earlier, though, is that they actually had an opportunity here to probably sell a lot of these model boats. Now, ITC was still in business also, by the way. So they could have done the same thing. Of course, they had a motor because ITC like play value in their stuff. But But
they were horrible models.
Yeah, but the people who bought it would have been 10 years old.
No, I'm just saying. ITC was horrible models. That's all.
Yeah. Doesn't ITC stand for it's truly crap?
Yeah.
I just made that up. Come on, that was clever, guys.
That was good.
Thank you. But it's one of those squandered opportunities. And it's just kind of a shame in a way because it's just styrene that didn't go across the counter. Ooh, I think I've invented a new thing. Like tankers say it's all about steel on target. Salesman, it's styrene across the counter. It ain't doing you no good on the shelf.
Yeah, but one of the reasons that probably was because it was a boat.
Okay, make your point.
Because Revell, they made a cabin cruiser. They made a Chris-Craft cabin cruiser in the 50s.
Uh-huh.
It's a really nice kit. Didn't sell.
Well, something like a brand identification, like a popular TV show, might have. I mean, like you say, they probably could have got the rights for a couple of grand, slapped the picture on it.
They could have got it for peanuts.
Yeah, slapped the picture on it, and just sold another. And back when that stuff started getting popular again in the 70s and 80s, you know how these things have like a 10, 20-year cycle. They fall out of it, and then they come back in syndication. Star Trek sold way more models after it went off the air than it did when it was on the air, I think.
Well, because there were more models after it went off the air.
Okay, fair enough. That's true. But you had a whole other generation of kids like me that were... I never saw Star Trek. I saw it in syndication.
If not to downplay the importance of Gilligan's Island, because, it was an important show in the 60s in terms of popularity, but you can't compare it to Star Trek.
No, not for like sophistication. In fact, one of the things that led to its cancellation was the network that was running it, and I want to say it was NBC, but I don't remember. But they did not like their reputation for unsophisticated shows, and even though the show was immensely popular, they were looking for a reason to get rid of it. And I remember this was in Russell Johnson's book. Here on Gilligan's Isle. They'd done 3 seasons. They were all going to come back for the 4th season. And by the way, none of them, when they went on hiatus, none of them were told the show was canceled. All of them found out when they showed up at the studio. I'm sorry, your name's not on the list. I think your show's been... One of them found... Danny Bonaducci said that about the Partridge Family, that they found out it had been canceled from the security guard. When his mom was taking him to the set, and he goes, "Now your show's been canceled. You're not on here." And... real class act.
Batman, they got a phone call.
At least somebody called them at home and told them. They didn't show up at the studio, find out from a security guard. Not knocking security guards. I'm just saying,
That's because they disassembled the entire set.
That brings up another thing. Was that the excuse they used to get rid of it was they were putting together... I forget, it was 1967, 68 time slot, 69. And the number one show back then, and for years, was Gunsmoke. And Gunsmoke, they couldn't find a place to put Gunsmoke in because they only had 30 minutes of open time. And they used that as an excuse to cancel Gilligan's Island to put Gunsmoke in. Now, of course, Gunsmoke was a much bigger show, but the point is that, they made no attempt to, they used that as an excuse. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of something called the Rural Purge. And I want to say it was that NBC? Or it was NBC, wasn't it?
CBS. That was CBS.
And the Rural Purge, I want to say it was around 79 or 71.
I mean,
Green
they had
Acres.
shows like Petticoat Junction.
They got rid of Green Acres, Petticoat Junction, the Beverly Hillbillies, the Petticoat Junction, Green Acres, Beverly, all of them, because they were all in the same universe. They got rid of Mayberry, Andy Griffith, all of them. They got rid, as old Mr. Haney said, if you remember him from Green Acres, the old salesman, Pat Buttram. He said they even got rid of Lassie, and he said they killed everything with a tree. And and by the way, all of these shows were still popular. All right, that's very important to note. But, all right, here's the but. The problem was the demographic. Now, the television business makes its money off advertising. I can remember, watching my dad watching Lawrence Welk show, and they would always advertise Geritol. They didn't advertise new cars or anything, because the people who watched the Lawrence Welk show, which is an old music show, they already had their Cadillacs or whatever. So what they realized was, although they were making money, the shows were popular, and the ratings were good, the problem was they realized they were missing out on a lot of money, because car companies and companies like that pay a lot more for advertising. But you need a younger demographic that still needs to buy stuff, that needs to buy washing machines and cars and homes and all the things that go in homes. All the people they had were over 50, so they already had all their stuff. So it might have been Brandon Tartikoff, but they decided to kill all these shows, go with a whole new lineup, all of them young and urban, Mary Tyler Moore Show and all these kinds of shows like that. And Rhoda, and I think she was actually a spinoff of Mary Tyler Moore.
And all of those shows happened in another urban part of the country.
Yes.
Mary Tyler Moore was in Minneapolis. One Day at a Time was in Indianapolis, and they kind of spread them out as to where their location was.
This is also where Norman Lear and a bunch of others, they started All in the Family, and which was in New York. They started a lot of city-based sitcoms, Welcome Back, Kotter, and that kind of stuff. And these shows were all also very successful. And I hate to say this, because I used to love watching, Gomer Pyle and Mayberry and all that stuff. But believe it or not, it actually worked. All the new shows were popular, and they started to make a lot more money on ad revenue. So give them their due. It's show business, their job's to make money, and they did make a lot more money doing that. And before we get too far away from kit models, I want to point out that this is exactly a sample of when things are changing in the kit model business. This is getting into the 70s when things are starting to decline, attitudes are changing. And I think, believe it or not, I mean, you weren't going to sell a model. How do you make a model of Three's Company? Or who's going to buy a model of Archie and Edith? At least with shows like Gilligan's Island, Mayberry, you had the patrol car, you had the boat, you had things that you identified with these old shows. And you could sell a Jeep and Marine Corps markings of Sergeant Carter's Jeep. They did that with the Hogan's Heroes. Hogan's Heroes Jeep, and I'm like, Hogan never drove a Jeep in Hogan's Heroes. Hey, dude, it's marketing, okay? Well,
as you saw at that time, you talk about Hogan's Jeep. They did the Rat Patrol.
Yes.
They did the Invaders spaceship, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Mm-hmm.
Land of the Giants. They went in that direction because it was a younger demographic.
But the thing was that they had, each one of those had some physical manifestation that a styrene manufacturer could cash in on. When you start doing all these urban sitcoms, that goes away. And now, what are you going to make? I mean, Jimmy Walker's Projects Apartment in Good Times, it's a great show. I watched it regularly. I thought it was fantastic. And I like the shows, but what I'm talking about is from a kit model standpoint. I mean, there were a few shows like Starsky and Hutch, and I know you're not a big Gran Torino fan, but still the car was but it was murder to the kit model companies, and But there was still some stuff they could do. And by the way, guys, the pictures I'm about to show you, I borrowed some of these screen grabs from Matt Irvine. He put out another video just recently on should have been, could have been, what ifs. And
they are fantastic.
He is his usual excellent self with just incredible artwork. Well, let's take a look at a few things here. Okay, I want to hold on. Let me just what if pause. Okay, I want to stop right here real quick. One glue trooper asked me why no one ever made a model of the Carpathia, and I'm sure everyone knows that's the ship that rescued the Titanic. Sadly, she was torpedoed in the last months of the First World War. Luckily, all but 5 people who were killed by one of the torpedoes did manage to get off the ship. She ate 3 torpedoes and took her about an hour and a half to sink. But anyway, I did manage to find this little off-brand. I forgot the name of the company, but it's I've never heard of them before. I guess it's resin. But you would think that as popular as the Titanic is, because everybody carries a model of the Titanic, and they sell to this day, even though she keeps claiming more people, but that's another story. Oh God, did I really just go there? Thanks for bringing that up, Steve. This is Steve's fault. On our pre-call, he brought that up. But anyway, if you wouldn't have to pay any rights to anybody. Anyone makes a model of Carpathia, I guarantee him 10,000 sales. I don't know. White Ensign models might have one, but then you're dealing with resin, which is something we're going to talk about a little bit later. But he brought up a great point. How come no one ever made a model of the Carpathia? Because they've certainly made models of lesser-known ships. And it's a good-looking ship. Very stately. I'm just taking a second to read the comments here. So, let's proceed with some of the other what-if models that they didn't make. Or didn't make when it was popular. Maybe made later on. Okay, I just stumbled on the YouTube video, so I threw this slide together at the last second. GM made a jet-powered car they called the Firebird, and apparently Paragon Toy Company did make like a working motorized toy model. But I was thinking that's the kind of thing I think kids would have gotten, that would have bought. That was, I mean, a real jet-powered car, not even a fantasy item. There was an opportunity right there.
Well, look at your favorite car, the LeSabre.
Mm-hmm.
The only one that exists is that 32nd scale kit.
Yep.
Now, you would think that somebody would have made a 24th scale kit of that car.
Oh, yeah.
Even today, you don't find one.
Oh, what was that one-off that guy made? What was his name? Kemp, something like that. He made that super smooth, Coke bottle-bodied thing with didn't even have a roof or doors. Oh gosh, I watched a video today on 15 amazing concept or cars, and like this guy made this thing out of aluminum, and I was like, wow, some of these guys had some really interesting designs, and a model like that, and look at it, it wouldn't be hard to mold that. I mean, there's not like 10,000 parts and all kinds of complex curves and stuff. That's actually reasonably straightforward. It looks cool, it was a real car, and although I got to be honest, put a few parts on it, it could be a transformer.
Yeah.
But okay, here's another one. It'll pop up on your screen in just a second. Around 1977, Dilo De Laurentiis did the King Kong with Jessica Lange and Jeff Bridges and Charles Grodin, which I remember seeing at the theater, and it kind of holds up okay today. That's where Rick Baker was the first time he'd been in the suit and everything, and he completely reset the standard. I personally thought it was a good movie. I watched it not that long ago again. I was like, okay, there are some parts of it that aren't holding up that well, but still overall, I mean, the story's pretty timeless. But I was surprised that, when it came out that you didn't see, actually, one of the Mexican companies may have used that box art, but I've never actually seen the kit. But I don't recall seeing any tie-ins in the kit model world. And I think Aurora was circling the drain, but they were still in business. Of course, they're King Kong molds from the original movie, but I don't know. The movie did pretty well. It was pretty popular. I think that would have been an opportunity to, to make something that, well, that's my
There
opinion.
were toys, but there were no kids.
Yeah, I know nobody wanted to invest in new molds because by the late 70s, model sales were, definitely on the downhill slide. Yes, you are absolutely right, Teenager in Sack. This is my TWA Hotel cup, which, by the way, is plastic. They're not going to give away the glass ones. And this is the one I got in the Connie. You got to buy a cocktail in the Connie to get one of these. They have some on display at the TWA store, but I don't think they were for sale. And besides, it's different when you actually have a cocktail in the Connie. Whereas would that be a Cockney or a Connie tail? Anyway, there has to be a way to merge Connie and cocktail. That doesn't sound, like one of those words your mom told you not to say. So, Jaws. There would have been, because there were some people already making sharks, and I know there was some stuff that came out later, but that would have been an easy sell back in the early mid 70s.
Well, didn't Adar make a Jaws model?
Later on, yeah, but the Adar didn't even come into existence until 79, 80, something like that, and after Abe, after Roard gone, well, no, it was a little earlier than that, but. They did make something that they did. Crap. No,
was the shark guy in a shark tank?
I don't know if there was actual Jaws tie-in to it or not. Let me check real quick. Okay. Man, I just did a thing on that recently. Okay. Steve, real quick, look up. When did the Jaws movie come out? Was it 74, 75?
Hold on, I will get that answer.
I'm looking for their. Nope. It is a Jaws tie-in. You're right. I stand corrected. And they did one in 75, which was one of their super scenes in a bottle, and they did one in 77, which was a new tool. Okay.
June 20th, 1975 was when Jaws was released.
Okay. No, I stand corrected. Abe did have the scene in a bottle out that year. Probably because that was small scale and he could get it out quick. And he had the Jaws. He had the
license.
He had the Jaws license, and he had the kit. He had the bigger one out in just 2 years later in 77. Hang on, I'll just grab that real quick. Plus image. Man, if you can't do this on the fly, you got no business being on the interweb. Okay, let's see. Now I just got to find the... Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, wait. There it is. Okay. All right, there we go. Yeah, you'll see in about 20 seconds. Yes. So, Bad Max. Not giving them enough credit. And the sad part is I just did a thing on this, so I should have known better. So, kudos on them for that. And... I was going to say that would have just been too easy not to do. So, all right. Well, let's go on with the next thing then. Oops. Let's go on with the next thing then. So that's 1 point for the universe. Okay, this is another one that Mat Irvine came up with. That's Klaatu's Flying Saucer. And I thought somebody had to have made that, and I couldn't find it. And there might be some resin maker somewhere, but no major company apparently did it. And he also said, you could do it in silver. He did 2 box tops for Klaatu. One in silver and one is their glow in the dark, which is what Aurora, would have done. And thinking those are, because, when it came in, it was glowing. Those are great ideas.
And nobody ever did a Gort.
I thought someone did a Gort.
There was a resin kit, but there wasn't a styrene kit from a, regular manufacturer.
Come on, guys. This is the low-hanging fruit. This ain't even hard. And, well, there you go. No Gort.
I mean, look how long it took to come out with a Robbie.
Yeah, I realize, but the thing is that Mobius and Pegasus have come out with a lot of these things, and they've done it pretty quickly. And I know times have changed, but still, what can I say? So, by the way, this is the T-shirt, one of the T-shirts my sister-in-law made for me for Father's Day. Thank you, Andrina. Let's see. What do we have next? The Metaluna.
Chili Billy, no.
What?
Chili Billy says, I would kiss Nancy Pelosi to have a model of the day the Earth stood still saucer.
Well.
No, sorry.
I'm not touching that one.
No.
But the Metaluna spaceship, there's another one that some people, they're not that hard to kit bash, or, a couple of, a saw, some files, and a couple of drop tanks and a frisbee, but still, there was an easy one to make that they didn't.
Yeah.
Yet somebody went out of the trouble to make, what was it, that yellow one that's currently being made? I forget the name of it, but.
Yellow one.
Rick Torrey.
Oh, yeah, no. Atlantis makes that.
Yeah, I had never even heard of that before. And I'm not knocking it. But I know people like to use them for kit bashing. In fact, one of our kit bash entries used it as a centerpiece of like a flying wing model. Did a nice job, too. Now, this is what I found was interesting. I thought for sure I remembered seeing a Partridge Family bus. And there are several school buses, very similar to theirs, that were made. But none of them were the Partridge Family. Okay? And I thought that license could not have been expensive. And again, there would have been an easy opportunity to go. I mean, the decaling would have been a nightmare unless you had to hand paint it. That would have driven you bonkers. But
Mrs. Partridge.
Yeah, Shirley Jones.
There she is.
Danny Bonaducci, Susan Day, David Cassidy. The little brother got replaced after the first season. They got some little blonde-haired kid to replace him. I was like 9 years old or 8 years old when this show came on, and even I realized that. I mean, they didn't even replace him. They didn't even replace him with another bowl-cut brunette. They replaced him with a kid that didn't look anything like him. And
Now, go back to what you were talking about with the two kits that were made of the boat that could have been Gilligan's Island kits.
The Wheelers,
Okay. Now, another example of what were they thinking. AMT came out with, I don't know if you remember this obscure show with Robert Loggia called THE Cat.
This sounds familiar.
He played a sort of a famous cat burglar, and he stole things for people to prove their innocence in something, and he had a Corvette. They, of course, made a model of, Corvettes. They got a license, and they put that out. Now, that show was gone in a year. It had nowhere near the popularity of Gilligan's Island or the Partridge Family, but they had the mold.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it was cheap to get the license.
Sounds like a spinoff of the old Robert Wagner show, It Takes a Thief.
No, this was before.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, this was like in the early 60s, like 64, 65.
Old enough to remember the Dean Martin Gold Diggers? I remember them.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, here's another kit they never made. When Dean Martin did all of those Matt Helm movies, which were fairly popular at the time.
I remember seeing. I love the helicopter that was in the trunk that he had to put together.
Yep.
And the tail light that would leave messages. If you can read this, you're too close.
Right. He always had a car that had a lot of gadgets, and it looked sort of custom, but fairly. Nobody ever made any models of those.
Yeah, one of them was a T-Bird because we had a similar looking Thunderbird.
Yep. And one of them was a station wagon that had a big curved, seating section in the back, like a limousine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Matt Helm movies, man. Okay. Do you remember the In Like Flint movies?
Yes.
With James Coburn. There was some stuff there they could have made. I realize they were all just trying to feed off the James Bond craze. And to their credit, a lot of James Bond models and toys were made. There was some stuff they missed. In fact, speaking of stuff they missed, Matt, of course, has some James Bond stuff. Here we go. Spectre Spaceship Bird 1. We're on about a 20-30 second delay. But they had enough model rockets laying around on the shelf that they could have just added a few parts to make the spaceship, like the Spectre spaceship and everything, and we're going to get in some other stuff.
Swallowed up the Mercury capsules.
No,
Gemini
capsules. Yeah. Mercury was a one-seater. Gemini was a two-seater. Both made by McDonnell, excuse me. And this is from Matt's video. This is his own artwork. But there you go. There's a perfect example of something that could have done partly off the shelf, probably in 1:144 scale. And another one was from the Roger.
That kid.
Oh yeah, the other one was the spider-looking Atlantis underwater city from Roger Moore's. Was it The Spy Who Loved Me? I think.
Oh yeah,
no,
yeah, the one Stromberg's headquarters.
Stromberg's, yeah, and that would have been again not that hard to mold. I'm sure it would have sold a bunch of units. The missed opportunity, and but the one I think is the coolest that he did was the Disco Volante, the boat that split in half and became a hydrofoil. And what was that?
That would have been a great model.
Was that Thunderball? Was that Thunderball?
That was Thunderball.
Yeah.
Gilbert made a toy of that.
Made a great model. I mean, it's really, pardon the pun, but it's James Bond cool.
It is.
And it's just, I think Matt Irvine has a really good eye for things that, and the ability to bring them to life with artwork like this. But he has a really good eye for things that should have been made and weren't. And of course, he's a fanatical model collector, so having worked in the industry, I think he has a special inside eye for stuff that could have been made that wasn't. This is like the fourth volume of these could have been, should have been made stuff, and some of them were made later on.
I got news for you. Airfix should hire him.
Oh my God, absolutely. We need to start a campaign to Airfix to hire Matt Irvine as a product advisor.
Yeah.
And by the way, they should have him doing their box art too. Now that Roy Cross is 99 years old, I mean, this is as good as any box art. Matt's an insanely talented guy. Another one. I know they make it now. Yeah, but you realize they didn't make this until what, 10 years ago, 15 years ago? I mean,
what, the space arc?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the picture switched back. That's why I wasn't sure.
Oh, I was going back. I realize we're out of sync by about 30 seconds because it takes a while for the picture to populate. But this,
we have an ongoing commentary on the chats about who is the hottest Bond girl.
Oh Lord, there's no wrong answer to that one. Good night.
I mean, no matter what you say, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, good Lord. But you know what? If you really want to start an argument, what's hotter, the Bond girls or the Hammer film girls? Yeah, a lot of guys right now are scratching their heads going, that's a thinker.
That's an unfair advantage because most of the Hammer girls were partially undressed most of the time.
All's fair in love and war.
Okay.
It is an unfair advantage, although Ursula Andress was, only had about 4% of her body covered, so...
Hey, I remember when I was 10 years old, my dad took me to see Dr. No. It was in a theater on Broadway and in Manhattan. And when she came out of the water, I sat up in the seat and I said, oh, that's what girls are for. It's like, okay.
Oh, boy. Well, I was raised with 3 older and 1 younger sister. So I saw a scene like that. I mean, shouldn't somebody be getting her a towel?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, when worlds collide is, how can I put this? It's good and bad sci-fi. I mean, the premise is
good special effects.
Good special effects, well done, taken seriously, good acting, good writing. The concept, scientifically speaking, is absurd, but not without a certain nod to the honesty of science, about the effects of a near flying body and everything and how it would wreak havoc on the earth. But um, it just, I like the movie, but I'm also kind of like, I mean, I'd buy the model, I'd build the model, I'd probably display it, I'd watch the movie if it came on. But I'm also kind of like, yeah, but this is like this movie I just saw with my wife. Like, was it Extraction 2?
Yes.
Okay.
I like that movie.
Really fun movie to watch. Everybody did a good job. But I'm like, the human body just can't take that. I don't care how tough you are.
Hey, if you're Thor, it can.
Yeah. But it's a movie. These are movies that you sort of just get your popcorn and have a good time. One of the things people talk about, if God, there actually been papers written on it and videos made about what if Godzilla was real. And I think it was Alternate History Hub did one on what if Godzilla was real from a political standpoint. It was really well done. Huh? What?
We'd be screwed.
Well, yeah. Well, one of the things he pointed out is you could have beachfront property for free. But there are people who get into, well, if he was really be so heavy he'd sink in the ground. Like, have you seen how big his feet are? And he's got the tail to support his weight. And these are serious arguments that people are having. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy the fun of it until people start getting a little too, name calling and everything. You're just an idiot. You don't understand. I'm like, dude, it's a fictitious creature. How do you know he's not like a bird? His bones aren't hollow, but. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing it now. But these are all part, the space arc, When Worlds Collide, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, War of the Worlds. Some of them are metaphors. War of the Worlds was a metaphor for European colonization of Africa. Orwell, H.G. Wells made no bones about that. But it becomes sort of the modern mythos, like the Greeks had their myths and their stories, and the Romans and everybody and their gods, and Odysseus and the Odyssey and all that stuff. And what I realize is that stuff on the silver screen, that's the 20th and 21st century legend and myth. I mean, we're actually using mythical creatures like Thor, and so. It actually, at some level, the stuff is actually important.
Lance wants to know if Monica has done a UFO moon base girl.
Yes, and I don't know if I have a picture of it. She did Lieutenant Ellis and Gay Ellis.
Oh,
and
yes.
And she knocked. I mean, she does an excellent job on all of them. But she knocked that one out of the park. Handmade suit, the works, all in silver, the whole the miniature shadow logo and everything. Yes, she did, and it's in one of my old videos somewhere, way back a few years. And unfortunately, one of the girls has passed away, but the one that played Gay Ellis is still with us, and so is Wanda Ventham, who played Colonel Lake. She's still with us also. And I believe she's Benedict Cumberbatch's mom.
Yes, she is.
And Wanda Ventham, I believe is her name.
That's her name. Yep.
And
well, a few of the Blue Troopers would like to see that doll if there's a picture of it.
All right, I'm gonna you know what, guys? I can almost guarantee
you. You don't have to see it this minute, but you can.
I'll see if I can find the video. In fact, I will wager my wife is if she's watching tonight's live stream, she's probably sending it to me. Let me check my messaging real quick, because I've gone through several computers since then. I have lost a ton of stuff. Some of it's just gone to the ages. Well, actually, you know what? There is. Let me just check Facebook Messenger real quick. And
getting back to the space arc.
Yeah.
there are pre-done kits of it.
Oh, hold on,
Just
before
the
we go
same
any further. Hold on.
The same company.
Oh, hang on. Jay just
Okay.
sent me this. King Kong: The Last Stand. Snap. Hold on, I gotta switch glasses. And other signs you may be getting older. The Last Stand, snap together model kit, no glue necessary. I don't recognize who it's from, but there was a King Kong model done, and he's up on top of the building. So thank you, Jay.
Okay.
I thought there was something I was overlooking, except he's way too big. He's straddling the two buildings, but still. Let me check one thing real quick. Go ahead and talk, Steve, while I look at this. While I look for this.
The same company that did the pre-built Martian war machines from War of the Worlds did the Space Ark with the launch ramp.
Mm-hmm. Mobius or Pegasus or.
But nobody's done a kit of it. You know, which is odd that you figure that somebody would do a pre-built that you could very easily just put the parts in a box and say put it together. It's a kit.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, that's important. And I'm looking at my old photos. I'm seeing a bunch of stuff I haven't seen in a long time. I'm like, oh my God, I don't remember being there. Did I do that? Oh, there's me fencing with my foil and my mask and everything. Okay. Back to work, Max. Glue Trooper animation. Let's see. Okay, I don't think I used to have a file just with Monica's dolls and everything in it. Hold on. You know, wait a second. I just had a thought. Okay, guys. Bill Campbell up in Canada sent me an email. Hey, Max, Sue wanted to move tonight. Sorry, Bill. No worries, Bill. This is not a mandatory formation. We're just here for the fun of it. Hold on. Okay, guys. I'm going to... Give me just a second. On my wife's website, but I don't know how far back her pictures can work. You can go to monicakstardolls.com. Boy, I read this, I realize how many of these people she has done. I think I built a lot of models, but whoa. I remember all these, like, oh yeah, she did that one, she did that one, she did that. That one just infectious laughs. Who came up with that super villain? Okay, let's see here. TV. The Secrets of Isis, yeah. Lost in Space, there's all the sisters. Rowena Supernatural, Eartha Kitt's Agatha, Lothbrok, Barnabas Collins. She does do guys sometimes, so that her women are her primary focus. I Dream of Jeannie, Pebbles. Wow. My gosh, I didn't appreciate. Oh, found it.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. I'm just going to do a screen grab. It's going to be these things. Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay. Hold on. View, zoom out, home, select. Crop, file, save as. I'll make it UFO. UFO. That's another thing that I mean, they did the Interceptor. They should. Well, actually, they did quite a few UFO models, but they should have done more. Here we go, guys. Here is her Gay Ellis image. Hold on, I spoke too soon. There we go. All right, coming to you here and there we go. And fit to screen. Transform, fit to screen. Okay. There is her Lieutenant Gay Ellis. And you'll see it in a few seconds here. Yep, can you see it now?
Yeah.
I seem to be getting on my... Yeah, it hits everybody at a different rate of speed. Oh, by the way, thanks, Jay, for sending that.
Oh, there you go.
And, oh, Jay's also got the Space Arc also. And, yeah, I remember when she was making that. A lot of work went out to get the fine... Because we're always going down to Michael's or to Joanne Fabrics, you know, where she's having to order online to find these materials. And, of course, they have to be scaled down. And sometimes she has the costumes made. Sometimes she makes them herself. And she did all the little badges and the belt buckles and everything. And there is a lot that goes into this. And God bless her, she is meticulous about the details. And
it's a lot of work.
It is. And she's done just about every Star Trek girl you can imagine, including Klingons and Romulans. Because Star Trek never gets old. By the way, I'm going to tell you guys something. I don't give a crap what anybody says on the YouTube. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But I think the actor Anson Mount has done a fantastic job as Christopher Pike.
I agree with that.
He just has a presence about him. He's exactly what I would expect from, you know, if Starfleet captains were real. And to be honest, I prefer him to Kirk. I mean, Kirk has his strengths and his places where he's better. But let's put it this way. I wouldn't be nearly as concerned about Bill wearing a red shirt on Pike's ship as on Kirk's.
Yeah.
Snort. Okay, guys, I'm going to do something with my little... Oops, whoa, don't touch that. I'm going to do something with a little Logitech camera here. Let's see, filters. Defaults. Okay. All right, I went back to the default settings on my Logitech camera. Anyway, so that's one of, God, hundreds of these things she's done. She's a machine. And a lot of these are commissions that are paid in advance. Oops, that's not the one I meant to. So getting back to what if ships, I agree that I stand by it. I think somebody should make a model of the Carpathia. And the Glue Trooper who asked me about that, I think he brought an excellent point. It's still one of many missed opportunities. I don't know if you guys ever watched the TV show Mad Men, but, you know, everyone I imagine knows who Don Draper is, the imaginary ad executive. And in one of the very best episodes of an excellent television series, he makes a comment about new. It's like a salve. People want to hear new and improved, you know, and it makes them want to buy stuff. And one of the things I know about model builders is there are people out there who have been building a long time, and they've literally built just about everything. And model builders are always looking for the next new thing. And yeah, you can come up with another Mustang or another Hellcat or whatever, but most guys have built that stuff countless times. Something like this, like the Carpathia, hasn't been done other than this little resin kit, but no major. So it's fertile ground. There's still a lot of fertile ground out there that's just not being tapped on. I guess because the industry's gotten so small, but somebody's still cutting molds.
Well, just look at what Monarch's coming out with.
Yeah, and the thing is Monarch isn't doing anything that's. I mean, they're doing stuff from the past, like the Fly and the Moon Suit. They're not doing anything new, as in new characters, like the new Shazam or anything like that. But they are making new kits and of stuff that wasn't made before, and people can't wait to. You know, I'll tell you why people will throw $60 or $70 down, and it's exactly the same reason they throw $70 or $100 on a good kit of the Carpathia, because it's the first time they've been able to get something they wanted. It's something new. The money comes and goes. You know, people complain, oh, model's $50, $60, that's so expensive. And it is. But you'll forget about the money after it's spent. Okay, but the model that sits on your shelf for the next 10 years, that's the value, is the pleasure you get out of it.
You know, I just read an article the other day, and it talked about how new cars, meaning brand new cars, are going to become a thing of only the rich, because the prices of them are going to eclipse what the average person can afford to spend on a car.
Oh yeah, $70,000 for a new Ford truck.
Yeah. So used car values will still stay strong because they'll have to buy used ones with low mileage. Same thing's going to happen with kits. There's going to reach a tipping point where people are going to say, I'm not spending that much money for a kit, which will then make them go to the secondary markets, to shows, eBay, and buy older kits that are still out there in circulation.
Yeah, probably.
So it's going to be very difficult for companies to make new kits because the prices of them are going to be pretty restrictive. I mean, those new Monarch kits, they're $75 kits.
But think about this. Think about this. That's about the cost of having a meal at Morton's or Ruth's Chris, and it's going to last a heck of a lot longer.
Yeah, but that's, I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about the average person that may build a model.
Yeah, I know. But that's what Atlantis is for. They've got a lot of... Atlantis puts out a lot of good $20 kits. I've got some of them right over here, and I am more than happy to build those all day long. Be honest with you, that's why I meant to get working on the Connie today, but we're going to get to that in a minute. But I don't mind that they cost that much as long as I have other options. But if Tamiya and Hasegawa are the last two companies making kits and everything was $100, that's a different story. But I don't care if the kit costs that much because I have an option. I don't have to buy it. I can buy something else. The problem with buying on eBay, and we're all familiar with the glitches of buying on eBay. The biggest problems of buying on eBay are, one, you're not 100% sure what you're getting until you get it. And two, of course, you got to add the shipping costs, which can push it right back up in the cost of a new model. So there's that. But, hey, it's an imperfect world. I mean, does anybody out there remember one of the earliest computer games? I'm talking about when computer graphics called the Oregon Trail.
Yep, that was a popular game back then.
It was actually a history lesson disguised as a game, but it was still, like you say, very popular. And it was a real eye-opening experience for a lot of people because they thought, oh, this is a computer game I can play. And they go, you have died of dysentery. And you're like, what? Wait, what? And they realize, yes, you're actually dead. And for the first time in their life, some 14-year-old playing this in school started to realize just how easy he has it. Not to play...
The problem is they say, what's dysentery?
Which is, it is a compliment to society, to Western society, that they don't know what dysentery is. I mean, it actually does us credit. One of the biggest problems I see with the, and I'm going to switch into old man mode for just a second here, with the younger generation, the kids today, they don't know how good to have it. But, and this actually, by the way, goes right back to model building. I'm going to make the loop. I swear to God, I'm going to get back to models. But follow me on this journey, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And Monica and I were just having this conversation earlier today. There is a theory, and I have no idea if it's just something somebody made up, if it's totally apocryphal, or if it actually bears, real scrutiny, can stand up to real scrutiny. That if you are between, let's see, now I guess it would be between 30, 33 and on up, if you're over 30, so say over 35 years old, you're probably one of the provided you don't smoke or drink too heavily,
As he takes a sip.
Yeah, but of course, I can't want to be too healthy. It was Migo that did the King Kong kit. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate that. So you're probably, if you were born between 45 and roughly 1990, 95, you're one of the healthiest generations that ever lived. And here is why. Okay? Super PCL says, don't trust eBay. Well, eBay isn't the problem, Super PCL. It's the people who use eBay. But I get what you're saying. And yes, it's, it's a crapshoot. Anyway, guys, follow me on this. If you were born 1945 or later, you had access to things like penicillin, sulfur drugs, the important stuff. You probably were well fed. You didn't go through depression where you had to skip every couple of days. You had to skip a meal on Wednesday because there was not enough food to go around. You probably ate 3 squares a day, 3 hots and a cot. You had medical care. You had communications, transportation. Most of your basic needs were pretty sufficiently met. And you played outdoors. And you got scraped up. And you broke bones. And you got your, bullied and all this other stuff. So your psyche got toughened up by the rough treatment of your peers. Your body learned to defend itself because all those scrapes and bruises you got, you might have, slap a little Bactine on it, take a salt pill, kid, and get back out there, wear a cup. But you beat your body up enough that it had to repair itself. At the same time, you had the important drugs available if you really got sick. You had sufficient medical care that your body could fix itself. But because you played outside, because all these cuts and scrapes got dirt and mud in them, your body had to develop a strong immune system. Okay? And if you survived, riding around the back of pickup trucks and drinking water out of a hose and riding bicycles on one wheel and going over on butt over tea kettle, and if you hadn't taken a handlebar to the forehead, you just weren't trying to be a kid hard enough. And of course, then you spent your off hours sniffing glue while you were building your model. Oh, yeah, good times. Ah. So, you survived. Martin's laughing. I thought about that in a while. So, if you survived all of that, you grew up tough enough, as the old saying used to go. Your immune system knew how to do its job. In old age, some of those old injuries come back to haunt you, are coming back to haunt me. But, you see where I'm going with this, Steve? Then around the 90s, early 2000s, we start getting the helicopter moms who were bathing their kids in Purell and wrapping them in bubble wrap. And all of a sudden, your these kids' immune systems never had to work a day in its life. And then all of a sudden, something like, I don't want to go there. You know what I'm getting at. Yep. They're actually, if it's true, people under 30, under 25 have weaker immune systems than people over 40. Because our immune systems had practice. We made it work. We made the white blood cells work for a living, by golly. And I hope I'm right because, or maybe I'm just making all of this up. You can't really tell. I'm very convincing.
Well, on that note, let's go to the fantasy boxes.
Okay, back to that. Okay, I was on a rant there. Come on, I was having a good time, Steve. Killjoy. Okay, well, that was actually all of the fantasy boxes. I love that flying saucer. I think that's my favorite of all his artworks, and I love them all. But this is my... Actually, I really like that artwork also. But I think that Disco Volante is my favorite, that boat.
That's my favorite, too.
Oh, there's something in here I didn't get to. We're talking about missed opportunities. And for all you Canadians up there, I imagine most of you guys may know this. Did you guys know that the Royal Canadian Air Force operated a full operational squadron of Russian-made MiG-21s? Did you? And now, mind you, I think I had seen these pictures a while ago, but about 10 minutes before we went on air, I finished watching the documentary video, which was done by an Eastern European, which is particularly interesting because he had kind of the inside track. There is a story here that I just got to tell. If you guys have a model MiG-21 and some Canadian decals, you have just got to do this. So let me tell you the story real quick. You can go on the video and look up the Red Hawk Squadron, and I'm sure a lot of Canadians are already familiar with this. I think I may have known, but I'd completely forgotten. Without touching on a particularly delicate subject, after what could have been the greatest fighter jet in history, interceptor in history, the CF-105 Arrow was canceled. The Canadian Air Force, people don't talk about what happened after that. Well, we bought the Voodoo. Well, yeah, they got the F-101 Voodoo later, but there's an interim story that is like the movie Pearl Harbor. It's the thing we do not talk about. The name that is not mentioned. Apparently, exceptionally covertly, the Canadian Air Force General Staff opened negotiations with the Russians about getting some MiG-21s. So I won't give you the whole story because there's a great video out there you can go watch. But basically, they very covertly went to East Germany where the MiG-21 was demonstrated to them. They bought 30 of them. And by the way, this was all done complete without the Americans having a hint what was going on. And they bought 30 of them. They made a fully operational squadron up Cold Lake. 18 aircraft, the rest were in storage. And when the Americans found out, you can't keep something like a noisy-ass Mach 2 fighter secret for too long. Some American Air Force airmen up there on vacation snapped a picture of 4 of them in formation. They were getting ready to show them at the Toronto Air Show anyway because the word had gotten out. It hit the cover of the paper, and the Americans just freaked. I mean, literally, they were deploying troops on the Canadian border. There was a newspaper article, red south of the dew line and all this other stuff. I mean, and a lot of this was, of course, deliberate political hyperbole. But Eisenhower was just about to leave office in 1960 when this happened, and he was mad as a hornet. And the American aircraft industry was furious because they wanted to sell their airplanes to the Canadians. And I guarantee you the Russian jets were a lot cheaper. But anyway, I don't know if the Canadians did this just to get the upper hand on the American aircraft industry or if they really wanted to operate the airplane or what. But anyway, the Americans made a lot of ludicrous demands. And, everyone in the Canadian Air Force involved in this needs to be sacked. You need to get rid of those airplanes in 30 days. Blah, 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 blah. And the Canadians, in just perfect Canadian tradition, said, well, we'll have to go to Parliament and go to the Treasury and set up an interdepartmental organization, blah, 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 blah. Drag their feet and everything. And it all worked out as these things do. Well, the checkered tails were for the Canadian squadron, which, by the way, still use that checker pattern today. Although one of the F-18s I saw had a checker pattern on the whole airplane. CF-18s. Anyway, the Canadians agreed to get rid of them. Although, not before they gave one to the Americans, as you see in the upper right. So the American MiG-21 that was used for years at Constant Peg out in Nevada and Tonopah was one that the Canadians gave us. They lied to the Russians and told them it had crashed. And they told the Russians 3 of them had crashed. In fact, only one of them had, which is the photo you see top center. He just ran out of fuel and belly landed it. So they gave 27 of 30 back, said one cracked up. Well, they actually used one as a gate guard, which you see there on the bottom at Cold Lake. And the other one they covertly gave to the Americans, who operated for years as part of Constant Peg, which is our aggressor stuff. Well, all of them that went back to the Soviet Union, 3 of them made their way to Vietnam and flew against the Americans in combat. 2 of them were shot down. And middle right, that Vietnamese logo you see underneath the faded checker, that was the one that they have in their museum to this day. And apparently they tried to cover up the Canadian markings, but over time the sun baked the paint off and the Canadian checker showed through again. And you gotta love it. Now I'm sorry, but that is a kit model opportunity. Somebody who already has MiG-21 molds needs to sell that kit with Canadian markings, assuming it hasn't already been done. And as you'll notice in the very center, I think the decal sheets aftermarket have been made because somebody made one, which is the model in the center. And I saw that and I was like, I have got to talk about that tonight. So, hey, good on you, Canada. Okay. Well, that was all I had on that. Now, into other things to do with models. Wow, I can't believe it. I thought people would have been hanging up on me by now. We still got 150 folks. I got the Jeep on the shelf today. Got it all repaired. Got everything put back on. You may notice the green on the spare tire doesn't exactly match the rest of it because I had to use a bottle paint instead of spray can. And yes, I know the tail lights are not exactly correct, but I don't have the eyes to paint any tighter than that. Remember, that's a lot smaller than it looks here. I'm actually kind of happy with the way it looks. Okay, what's going on here? Oh, sorry. Little controller a little operational. Okay. Now, here is the Jeep from the front. I did paint the headlamps. The headlamps are completely, they have the little serrations like the light bulbs, which tells me that they don't have the blackout drive covers on them. So I didn't bother to do that. But it looks good on the shelf, which is my standard. You know, the monogram Jeep is not the best one made by any standard. One thing that's got me a little concerned is I painted all the infantrymen and I can only find a few of them. The guy with the radio is missing. The
important guy.
Yeah. Now all these other guys are from the ones I already had from before. And not to be too much of a buzzkill, but some of them are carrying M14s. Anyway, now we got 3 bazooka teams instead of 1. And I was trying to do a forced perspective with that off-scale artillery piece in the background, but I just didn't have enough room to do it right. But the Jeep is on the shelf. The truck is on the shelf. I'm pretty happy with the way they came out, given that they're your basic monogram kits. And I played around with the cover on the truck, and I really am glad I did it in a different tone because otherwise a truck, you know, military vehicles tend to be very monotone if they're not camouflaged. And this way, the truck just has a little character. And I weathered the canvas and everything. One thing I do want to point out real quick. I painted the headlights on the truck. And as soon as I was done, I realized the truck actually had like blackout drive covers over it. The headlamps were covered. I could have left them green. But it just looks so blasé, you know, without something. So I went ahead and painted them. By the way I did the Jeep headlamps, since they're a little recessed, I put a little dollop of white paint on there and then took a little thinner and dropped it in there and just let it fill the area and the void area. I had to clean up a little bit. And of course, when you zoom in like this, you can see the blemishes. But it looks fine up on the shelf, which is, you know, my standard. I don't get too in the weeds with this kind of stuff. I mean, I'll go in the weeds with something like the Tiger because it's such a detailed kit. But a basic kit like the monogram one, I like to just kind of, you know, keep it a basic build and keep it fun. And, you know, put the windshield. I mean, look, it doesn't even have a backing cover. You'd have to get some sheet styrene and stuff and make an internal brace to do the windshield properly from the inside. This kit was meant for a 12-year-old, you know, to be able to build and go vroom vroom and play with. It's not, if you want to get a super hyper detailed kit and do it all out, I mean, they didn't have an engine, then, you know, get yourself a Hasegawa or something. Because I built the 135 or 124 Hasegawa Jeep and it is great. I did the entire engine and everything. But this meets my needs. And I'm happy with it, and that's the standard. Anywho, I just thought I'd show you guys, and all 4 wheels are sitting on the ground now that I fixed that axle. And but anyway, by the way, I did something else today, you guys. I hope you get a giggle out of this. Remember, the thing I'm about to show you is a fun build. This is Thunderbird 2, and I forget who sent this to me. It might have been Garfield, but whoever it was, give yourself a okay. Now, I've just covered it in Mark Fit here, so you see the liquid and everything still on. I want to get some pictures for tonight. And the Canadian decals were sent to me recently. And I apologize, I forgot who sent them, so please give yourself a shout out in the comment section. But I don't know. Back when we did the Canadian build, Garfield had submitted a Thunderbird 2 done in white rescue markings with Canadian markings, and I thought it looked so cool. So I just decided, you know what? I just got these Canadian decals. I've been meaning to. Originally, I started off putting a SAC Vietnam, Southeast Asia camouflage scheme on it, but I was using rattle cans and I was having too many troubles with the edges and I couldn't get it right. I said, you know what? Quit being so serious. Have some fun. I grabbed that new spray gun that was given to me by a glue trooper, and I decided, you know what? I am just going to have some fun with this. I enjoyed myself this afternoon just playing, making up my own camo scheme and everything, and just, you know, that's what model building is about. If you want to hyper detail a model, absolutely, you do what makes you happy. Sometimes you just want to play with your airbrush and have a good time. And I had so much fun doing this. And when it's right up behind me on the desk, hardening. And in fact, hold on, let me go get it.
Sluggo says that looks like Trudeau's shuttle.
Oh! Well, hang on, coming back. Okay.
Now, was this a die cast or?
No, that's a kit model that I built.
Okay.
Here it is, right here. No, it's a plastic model. And hold on, let me just.
Now, this fighting Godzilla would be an excellent diorama.
Oh, great! You just had to say it. Now I have to do it. The mark fit's starting to work now. The things are settling. Nope. But if you'll notice, what this is, you know, when you build even a kit bash, you normally have a story behind it. And this is the Imperial Canadian Air Force. My attitude is that in 50 years from now, when this kind of technology is perfected, the Canadians are going to get tired of the Mr. Nice Guy routine and being shoved around. And they're going to go Imperial and start invading small Asian countries that get out, you know, they get too big for their britches. And this is going to be one of their assault command vehicles, you know, where you go in and they pop out the center section and everything. And so this is how the Canadians are going to wind up becoming an imperial nation with weapons, you know, with systems like this.
Sluggo says it plays I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay when it's flying.
They're going to use this to harvest, you know, the timber in Southeast Asian countries that get out of line with them. You know, probably start with the CCP. You know, when next time they grab a couple of Canadians and decide to use them as hostages, like they did not that long ago, they're just going to send these guys in, you know, and just let's go do a rescue mission, eh? But I heard somebody laughing. Canada invades Greenland. There you go. Canada invades Greenland. I like that. Canada invades Greenland. Greenland needs it. And now there's 8,000 people shaking their fist at me going, no, we don't. And I don't know why I just gave him a Norwegian accent, but anyway. So I have to put the engine mounts and landing gears on it, but I'll probably take a couple of pictures when I do. But sometimes you just get your spray gun and you want to paint something, and hey, you're laying around looking innocent. I'll just paint you. We've all done it. Come on, admit it. So, by the way, real quick, I'm going to show you guys my shame here.
Tom Fox says Canadian invasions begin with "Excuse me, eh?"
Excuse me, eh? We're taking over your country, eh? And I guarantee a lot of countries probably go, okay. Hey, it couldn't be any worse than a lot of them have. So, playing with a spray gun, I just didn't like the way the ME262 V12 looked. And I tried spraying over the existing stuff, but the paint I used was a little too thinned out. And it was hard to get out, but at least it has the airbrush cover. So I'll probably hit this thing again with something else later. But I'm just showing you this guy, and I'm keeping the picture small so you can't see how bad this thing really looks. But where's 20 bucks?
Don't show it to Ian.
Yeah, God. And next time I see Ian, this model is not coming up. This is my own fault. Okay, let's go ahead and go here. You know what? Screw it. I'm just going to show this full size. So you guys get your snicker on. Do your worst in the comment section. I don't care. Okay? So, although what?
The crowd just put up Bud Light minefields will keep us safe.
I'll still drink Bud Light. I just won't pay for one or let anybody see me do it. Anyway, this
Nathan
kit
just says we could take over Canada, and as long as we let them keep Tim Hortons restaurants, we'll be okay.
Well, I would make keeping Tim Hortons open a requirement for any Canadian invasion. Can invasion. Let's call it can invasion. By the way, speaking of which, my wife found some Keurig cups of Tim Hortons decaf. It is absolutely the best decaf I've ever had. And I normally have a decaf. My wife, because she's worried about my health, far more than I appear to be, she limits me to 2 cups of coffee a day. So she got me some Tim Hortons decaf. And I'm like, my God, this actually tastes like real coffee. Decaf done right. If those words don't insult everybody. But anyway.
What the hell did you paint this with?
Well, it started off just with a brush, and then I started using the air gun. It's a total nightmare. It's a total trainer. But let me explain something. I realized when I saw how bad this paint job.
It's got lumps on it.
Huh?
It's got lumps on it.
Dude, this is a Bondo Queen in 1/72nd scale. It's actually about this big. I mean, the thing is tiny. It fits in the palm of my hand. I realized why I did such a bad job on this. And guys, follow me on this, all right? I came to hate this kit. I mean, hate it with like, I hate you. I hate you so much, I'm not even going to kill you. I'm going to let you live and suffer. That kind of hate. And we've all had a kit that we've hated.
Except every time you look at it, you suffer.
Yes. Somebody understands me. It's like the uglier I make it, the better I feel. Well, anyway, I thought I would show you my shame. Now you've seen it. And
Jack Fleming says that jet looks like it has COVID.
COVID jet. Let's see. We already talked about that one. Oh, there is something I thought I would bring up. This is a... Tommy sent me this from California. Tommy's in California. He sent me these pictures. This is coming out of Texas called AccuSail Models. What it is, it's the base plate. For $20, you can buy these pre-made diorama bases in 1/48 scale. And I just thought I would point that out to you guys because they look pretty awesome. So
nice.
And I have found that diorama making and model making are 2 separate skills. By the way, side note, that SBD with the yellow circle around the fuselage star is probably being used on Operation Torch in the Atlantic, in the Mediterranean. And a lot of people don't know this, but we always think of the American Navy and Dauntlesses and Wildcats fighting in the Pacific, which they did. But some of the ships and some of the planes were sent over to North Africa for the North Africa invasion, Operation Torch. And they put that yellow ring around the star to help identify them as American airplanes to prevent fratricide. So there are SBD pilots who flew operations in the Atlantic as well as the Pacific. But anyway, AccuScale Models, guys. If you want to get yourself $20 a pre-made, I might order a couple of those. One of the reasons some of my models look so good is because a while back a glue trooper sent me some pre-made diorama bases, and they really do help your model pop. And that's not, I'm not getting anything out of this. That's just an observation on my part.
You know,
Well,
there's a channel on YouTube. I don't know who the guy is, but he's been putting out a video, I guess about every 2 or 3 weeks, doing another old Tom Daniel monogram kit.
uh-huh.
And he's done like 4 of them so far. He's done the little bandit, the school bus, and the garbage truck. And it's interesting because he seems to have a whole collection of these Tom Daniel kits.
Oh, yeah, yeah. TD is still popular. I spoke to him, oh gosh, it's probably been a year ago now. I need to give him a call sometime, get up with him. Haven't heard from him in a while. I need to check in and see how he's doing. He's 85 now. And last I spoke to him, he's still going strong. And I've got right here, if you see where my finger's at, the Rommel's rod that he personally gave me out of his personal collection. So, you know, I'm never building or selling that one. The Rommel's rod I have, which is right there on the shelf, it was one I believe Garfield sent me. And it's a really good kit. It goes together very easily. It was always my favorite because of my penchant for militaria. TD still has a very strong following, which is, it says something about his staying power, you know, in his eye for what's cool. Okay, real quick, I was just at Hurricane Hobbies the other day, and Ian and I were talking about stuff. I was standing by all the model cars. He's got a huge, just got a big, you guys probably know because you saw the video. Those snap tight semis that I talked about on the when I was at Ian's last time, that I didn't even know they made snap tight semis. They both sold. They're gone. Poof. And anyway, so I was standing there by all of the stuff, and TD did, Atlantis is repopping some of his kits, like the trike, and there's a 2-in-1 that has the trike and the, I forgot the other one that's in there. Anyway, and I told him, I said, if anybody comes in looking for a model for a kid, give them this, because it's a snap tight. They should probably still glue it together, but it's a snap tight. It'd be something easy to get kids in. Some of TD's, the snapper, what used to be called snapperoos, I think, those are great entry-level kits for young kids because they're so easy to build. And I've seen people that are like, oh, I want to get my kid a model. I want to get him into modeling. And they're looking at models they want to buy. I'm like, get him this Atlantis kit with 25 parts, you know, or this Tom Daniel snapperoo, you know, that he can snap together and then glue. You know, don't start off with an Aoshima or a Hasegawa. You're wasting $50 and you might turn him off to model building. There's your question of the day.
Don't disappoint him out of the blocks.
Exactly. And so there's guys, put down in the comment section, if you were going to get a kid interested in models, what kit would you give him? I gave him the Tom Daniel Snapperoos, or at least the kit by Atlantis, because Atlantis repops a lot of the more basic. I mean, they're good kits. Like I've got a bunch of them up here. I can't wait to get started on them, but just got so many irons in the fire. But what kit would you give them? I would start them. It also depends on what their interest is. If they're interested in cars and stuff, then I'd probably give them one of the TD's easy to build snapperoo kits just to start with. But if they're into airplanes, I'd probably get them one of those basic Atlantis kits, something that doesn't have too many parts. And the more basic, the better. I think my first kit, I'm 50% certain, 80% certain, 20% certain, I don't know, that my first kit was the Airfix BTK Spitfire. What I remember was it was a Spitfire in 1/72 or 1/76 scale, and it was blue, and it was in a bag with the cardboard header. And that sounds, since this would have been about 1965, 66, I'm thinking Airfix, but apparently there might have been some other companies that were already making knockoffs. And it was like 35 cents at a drugstore that my dad's cousin ran. And he just pulled it off the shelf in the sundry section. Okay, we can have that. And I think I told you guys this. I didn't even know that how the water slide decals work, so we just cut them out and taped them on. Oh my God, it was a train. Put together with white glue, it was a total train wreck. You can't buy memories like that. Oh, by the way, I wanted to bring something up real quick. One of the glue troopers, I just got the email 10, 20 minutes before we did this, and I promised him I'd try to talk about it if we had time. And most of you guys already know this. He was talking about he didn't realize that Revell bought Monogram, they'd merge, blah, blah, and I gave him the 10-second, 2-line, no, Revell bought Monogram, used their name, blah, blah, blah. So just to cover that real quick. In the 70s, the late 70s, actually the 70s in general, were a time of transition for the kit model industry, and not in the good way. It's funny because the 60s, they hit their zenith in the 60s. And the 70s, it was just all, the wheels started to come off the wagon. Lots of reasons why. Times changed. Kids changed. The 73 oil crisis didn't help jacking up the price of petroleum products, of which styrene is a petroleum product. Monogram was one of the few companies that was solid in the black. But one of the reasons they were in the black was Tom Daniel. His kits help offset the butt kicking they got in 65 when the bottom fell out of the slot car market. And Monogram, although not as deep as Aurora and some of the other kits companies, they were still pretty deep into the slot cars. In fact, they're supposed to have made one of the best slot car tracks out there. Tom Kitt over at Scale Car Garage did a couple of years ago, he got a actually perfectly intact Monogram track set kit. He did a video on it. If you have any interest in that, I suggest you check it out. And John was pretty amazed that he found one that none of the tabs were broken off or anything. And Monogram definitely had a better quality, I think, than Aurora did. But the ones I played with as a kid were Aurora. But the point is that 65, the bottom falls out of the slot car market. All the plastic model companies, for the most part, had gotten involved with slot cars to some degree, and they all pretty much took it on the chin. I think that's one of the things that led to the eventual downfall of Aurora. That and Diker and a few other things. The guy potted out. But getting back to Monogram. Monogram had managed to stay in the black, but according to, I think it was Ken Meeker, an executive at Monogram, and I got Graham's book literally right here, next to Craig Cadera's Collecting Model Airplane Kits and Mike Machat's Painting Aviation's Legends. Both books I highly recommend. Plug, shameless plug, because I just think they're great books, and you guys are the kind of folks that would enjoy them. Anyway, according to Ken Meeker, through Phil Graham's book, Tom Daniel's models were so popular that the income they got from that helped keep them in the black to offset the disaster that had been the slot car market. And so TD, and he told me point blank that it wasn't long after that everything kind of, in the late 70s and 80s took a dump, and it hit him hard because he got paid largely on royalties. But there's a reason that they saw his talent early, and Reader had the good sense to bring him on board. He never worked for Monogram. He was always a contractor. But I'm not surprised his stuff is still popular, because it's like blue jeans. It's just timeless. And I was a military, airplanes first, tanks second, ships third, other stuff all below that. And I can remember looking at some of TD's designs. The only one that ever really interested me was Rommel's Rod, because it was military. But I remember looking at the garbage truck that was, that we're using as a bandstand, and some of the other stuff, and thinking, that stuff's actually pretty cool. I would love to have that. But in the end, I bought the Militaria. But still, that being said, though, the fact that his stuff was so good that it managed to get my attention and of course I'm seeing this from the self view, because you guys have to understand, you're all just co-stars in my universe, of which I am the center. Okay, I hope you guys understand humor when you see it and you realize I'm making a joke here. Okay, there's always somebody who just goes, "What a jerk! He thinks he's the center of the universe." Well, yeah, we're all the center of our own universe. But anyway, the fact that TD's designs were so good that they could pull my attention away from that, I think that says something. What say you?
Well, you also have to remember, a lot of TD's kits were also Hot Wheel cars.
That's true. And
so he pulled them in when they were younger with his great Hot Wheel cars, which were also model kits. And then they would just step up to the model kits. So it was a perfect mix.
Pardon me, I need a sip of whiskey.
I mean, the Red Baron Hot Wheel car is one of, in mint condition, is one of the most sought after Hot Wheel cars ever, because it was part of the original 16, I believe.
Really?
Yeah,
By
there's
the way,
one that has a different color interior, which they made, like just, they had some extra plastic. Oh, let's run it in this color that's worth a fortune.
By the way, just for the record, guys, that wasn't whiskey. That was green tea. I'm pretty sure everybody knows that, but just so when they see me chugging out of the TWA cup, that was a joke. It's kind of sad I have to say that. What happened to the old days when you had comedians like Foster Brooks, when you actually make fun of alcoholics? Oh, well, anyway. Good days are gone.
Dean Martin.
Huh?
And Dean Martin.
Dean Martin, one of Dean Martin's best gags I ever heard, he goes, "I only have one drink a day, and this one's for April 14th, 2347. Now, okay, here's your trivia question then, Steve. You're a car guy.
Yes.
This is Hot Wheels. What Hot Wheels vehicle, which by the way was a top seller, was a reasonably accurate copy of a one-off truck?
The Diora.
Diora. I knew you'd know that. Okay, for those who don't know, what makes the Diora really stand out? Oh, no, that's not fair. A lot of things do. I'm thinking of the way you
get in and out of it.
Okay, it's the way you get in and out of it. If you would describe.
The front windshield hinges up, and the front portion of the car that's from the bottom of the windshield to the bottom of the car tilts down, and you step into it. And then they close up like a clam shell.
How do you spell Deodora?
Deora. It was made by the Alexander brothers.
Yeah,
it was based on a Dodge D100 cab over pickup truck.
I know 90% of the people who are watching this know what it is. I'm just grabbing a picture real quick to show them. That's a small picture.
And it carries surfboards as Phaser 1X.2.
It does indeed. I don't know why they didn't put that in production. People would have bought it just on because it just looked cool. Let's see if I can. Okay, it's got it. There it is. Okay, guys. For those who've never seen it, that's the Diora, and it was made from a very mundane vehicle. But
it was made from a cab over Dodge pickup truck.
And for those, on the off chance there's one or two folks watching that don't know what that is, they actually had pickup trucks back then. Dodge had them. I think Volkswagen had one too. and I remember, God, I remember these things.
There it is. There's the picture.
Yeah, they were, as you drove it, the engine was between the driver and the passenger, and
Yep.
and so you all the entire vehicle was basically useful bed and payload area with just a little cupola up front for the driver and the passenger with the engine in between them. Kind of like the way
And
vans used to be. Basically, it was a van with a truck rear end.
what was the worst part of all of them?
If you had an accident, you were in the front of it.
You were in front of the wheels.
Yeah, so
right.
if you turned, the vehicle actually turned behind you.
And the one that was notorious was the Corvair ramp side, which the engine was way in the back.
I think I remember that one. Hold on.
And it had a drop
and the side opened up, right?
Side.
Yeah, the side opened up. Hold on, I got a picture of it right here.
Down is the ramp. It was called the ramp side. You could push things up in it.
Yeah, hold on. I'm getting the picture now. Crop file, save as. I'll call that RS for ramp side. Save. Got to go. Sorry, guys. I got to go all these imaginations to get this up here. Add image. Browse ramp side. Oh, I got to scroll down for that one. Okay. RS. There it is. I used to think these vehicles were freaking awesome. It'll be
Jay
up in a few
Leno
seconds.
has one.
Oh, Jay Leno has one of everything.
What the guy down the street from where his garage is had one, and he used it as a parts runner. The guy had a junkyard, and the guy passed away. And when he passed away, his kid drove it down and said to Jay, "Here, my dad wanted you to have this."
Oh, wow.
They did a complete frame
I
off.
think I saw that episode. Yeah, I think I did.
It didn't look that good when it was new. We
Yeah.
were finished with it. That's it right there.
I have to run and take care of something real quick. Tell them about the car.
Sure.
I'll be right back.
Now,
you see the ramp side? You see the picture?
As you see here, the way the doors are, the seats are up against the back of the cab, so your feet are way in front of the wheels. So if you hit anything in the front, you're hitting it first. There's nothing in between you and whatever you're going to hit except a small wall in the front. The Volkswagen was the same. The Dodge was the same. The difference with this was, as you see, the side of the bed comes down, and it's a ramp. So you could push whatever you wanted up the ramp, roll it up, and close it. If you look in the back of the picture, you'll see there's a raised black bed. That lifts up, and underneath it is the engine. So, the engine is really behind you. And there weren't too many models of this. I think there was one model, and it was, I think, made by Palmer. It wasn't, made by a major manufacturer. It really wasn't that popular a kit, as was the Corvair. There really weren't a lot of Corvair kits until it got to the next generation of Corvair, the 66, 67 bodies, and they made that. It could be the original handicap accessible vehicle, absolutely. And yes, Phaser U were the external and internal airbag. But this is, what was of the time back then. I don't remember anybody making a camper out of it, because with the bed in the back being high to cover the motor, you really didn't have a flat floor. And the white trim down the side and the white roof was always the accent color, and they came in a variety of colors. But you don't see too many of them around anymore for a variety of reasons. But the Diora, which was made from the Dodge, which looks similar in layout to this, looks nothing like it, because it was such William, the real Diora does exist, and it still does the show circuit.
Yeah, it not only does the show circuit, but my understanding it's still considered one of the favorites.
It is, and it works. It runs. It drives.
Well,
It's
they
not
didn't
just
change. They
it's
didn't
not
change.
just a trailer queen.
I don't think they changed the drivetrain on it at all. It was just the
No.
the body and the door and everything. But
Oh no! I mean, the Diora was. I mean, it looks nothing like the Dodge that it, was the underpinnings.
But you got to give them credit, though. I mean, the brothers did have. Is that the only thing the Alexander brothers did that they were known for?
Yeah. Well, no, that's their main. They've done a lot of cars, but that was sort of the one that put them on the map.
Ken's here. Hang on, I'm going to see if I can dial him in here. Okay, merge. Hey, Ken.
Hey, I'm home.
You're home. All right. Are you online, or are you Are you watching, or are you just on the phone?
I just got on the phone. I just came in the door. I'm about to jump on the computer.
Okay. Well, everybody, Ken managed to make it before the deadline. God, how fast were you driving? Don't answer that.
No, we just normal speed.
He was doing Diora speed. He has no idea what I'm referring to.
Oh, like what? We just lost people. What?
Oh, great. 25 people just quit. No, I'm kidding.
I came in and they all leave, huh?
Well, Ken, that's the way it works. Well, look at the bright side. Ken, once you sign on, we'll be back up one.
They missed the good part, Ken. Come on. What was the good part? Meeting Max.
Yeah. So somebody had to go visit his grandkids and spend time with family.
That was the good part? Yeah. All right.
By the way, guys.
Guess what I got to do?
Yeah, you rode in a Corvette.
Yeah.
Ken's all excited because he got to ride shotgun in a, C6 or C8?
A C6. He has a C8 also, but that was all on the top. He's got a lift in his garage. He puts the C8 on the top and the C6 on the bottom.
God. Some people just have too much money. I am not one of those people. By the way, guys, just real quick, I'm going to move the camera here a second. On one side, here we go. I just let you know, I've got this big packing.
Wait a minute. You want to hear about my experience?
We're going to get there in a second, Ken. Relax. Believe it or not, unlike me, it's not all about you. Just let you guys know I'm trying to do this, and I've got this piece of foam over here, and I've got the blanket hanging back on the door. These are all attempts to deaden the sound so you don't get that background, you try to make the volume here a little bit better. That's what I was talking about earlier. Okay, Ken, tell us about your exciting adventure in the C6 Corvette.
This wasn't just a regular typical C6. This thing's been modified a little bit. He, what's that? Had a key? No.
He didn't have a key.
Y'all familiar with the Teslas, that screen that's in the middle?
Yeah, the big TV screen.
Yeah. Well, he's got one of those.
Okay.
It's a new add-on. The guy hasn't released it yet. He's got it in beta, and it's a screen. Where all the the radio and the
yes, Ken, it's in the center of the console. We understand that.
All the infotainment system.
Yeah.
Everything that's in the middle console is now a screen.
Right.
And it's got a carbon fiber bezel that goes around it, makes it fit into the car, and it controls just about everything in the car. It's really, really cool. Why would you do that to a Corvette? What do you mean, why would you do that? Because now it's not stock anymore.
Well, Steve,
stock only. He's got a C8. What does he care?
Steve, okay, hold on. We got to clarify something. Stock only matters when you're buying a vintage car. When it's just a new car, you chop it up and do all kinds of bad stuff to it.
Well, only if you intend never to sell it.
How old is this guy, Ken?
A couple of years younger than me, I think.
So basically, it means when it's a classic, he'll probably be dead.
Quite possibly. His son will inherit it.
I don't think he's worried about reselling it. So.
No, he's probably not worried about it.
Plus, when you have a C6 on the floor and a C8 in the ceiling, I don't think you're too worried about the resale value.
No.
You know, this is on par.
What was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm talking.
Go ahead.
What was really cool about this car, the C8, is as I was walking under it, my son-in-law pointed out to me, he says, the whole bottom of this car is flat. There's panels underneath of there to make it aerodynamic underneath the car. There's only 2 holes down there, and one of them's for the oil filter.
Yeah, my wife's Lincoln has that. My Genesis has all had that. My son's Sonata has that.
When I was in the Army, our M113 armored personnel carriers had that, but that was so they could swim. Yeah. Hey, we could do 2 knots, on the surface, and none submerged. And when we tried to paddle on the surface, half the times they ended up submerged. That's why we were all sitting on top of the bloody thing.
They didn't always stay on the top, right?
An armored personnel carrier is the world's lousiest boat and the world's most one-directional submarine.
Okay. Well, anyway, we decided that he was going to take me to go pick up the mail in his neighborhood. Well, we didn't. We didn't go in the mailbox first. We took it out onto Steve will get this, some side streets. Actually, they were country roads.
Carbon fiber don't serve.
What's that?
It never mind, kid. Just keep going. Take too long to explain.
Oh, okay.
Charlie don't serve.
Anyway, so we're driving around. He's showing me the car, and he showed me the special thing that his screen that he put in the car, and it's still got some few bugs in it because he's a beta. And anyway, so we finally get to this long straight.
Did you just say he's a beta?
For testing this screen that's in his car.
Oh, I was gonna say, dude, if he's got 2 vets, a C6 and a C8, I think he's an alpha.
Never mind.
You meant the screen as a beta test.
He's beta testing the screen, not
Trust
the car.
me, he is not a beta.
Yeah, okay, fine. Whatever you say. I get what you're trying to say, but it's falling flat. Anyway.
Flattered 3-day-old beer.
So, anyway, so we get to this.
Come on, guys, we have fun here.
Flat piece of road that's the speed limit's 55, and he opens it up, and holy shit.
Hey. Family channel. Family. Language. As Captain America says, language.
Holy
smokes. Holy
crap,
smokes.
Did that thing take off. Phew. I kind of got the feeling about now how those guys that take off on aircraft off of aircraft carriers feel.
0 to 140 in 2 seconds flat.
Damn near what we did.
Language.
Oh, man, was that cool. That thing can scoot.
That car is so fast it got Ken to cuss.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, if we're going to keep talking about that, I'm going to need more cough medicine.
Man, I've never been in a Corvette before. I've sat in them.
Whoa. Hold on. Pump the brakes.
What?
Ken, you've never been in a Corvette?
I've sat in them, but I have never ridden in one.
Steve, I'm not sure we can hang out with him anymore.
I don't know. Now that he's
Why?
Now that he's the skipper soon. I don't know.
Well, at least he finally got his Shari
that's
boosted.
It's a whole folk of a different color,
God, 15 people just signed off when you said that, Ken. Look, the embarrassment is that a Tesla can drag any of them.
Meanwhile, look at it this way, Max.
now with Ken becoming an admiral of his own fleet,
Commodore, mind you.
between the three of us,
Commodore, you got to have more than one boat. But go ahead.
between the three of us, we have the land, the sea, and the air covered.
There you go. Ken's got the sea, you've got the land, I've got the air. We are the mighty triad of power.
There you go.
Let's go save the world.
There, the Kraut said it best. Ken Mustang, the real car.
Let's go save the world. What is this, the boys?
Well, Ken rode in a Corvette, which is named after a ship. I drive a Mustang, which is named after a fighter plane. And Steve...
I drive a Jeep that's named after Indians.
There you go. Yeah,
And there's a
that's right.
connection there somewhere.
We're badasses. Oops, language. The best of my recollection, I haven't been in a Corvette either. Well, Herman, let me tell you about Corvettes. They are a motor with a couple of very uncomfortable seats bolted behind them. I would say that the
I don't know. I
Corvette,
didn't think mine were that uncomfortable.
the one I drove was, I forget, it was a C4 or C5, but it was the most uncomfortable car I've ever sat in, but it would go like a scalded cat.
Well, I also don't have the girth that Max has.
Well, that's because
Well,
you're a
this is
big
true.
guy. The best Corvette for big guys are C3s, which is the 63 to 67.
I
because
could
there's
go
enough
for
room
that.
in
You
there.
see, back when they were Stingrays.
Exactly.
The first vet I ever rode in, the 63 had the split back window.
Yes, it did.
Okay,
Yeah, that was the 60.
Okay, this I think might have been a year or two later than that. I think it had a solid back window. It might have had split, but I think it was solid. So it was 65 or so. But I was about, God, okay. I've told you guys this story before, but I'm going to tell you again because it's my show and it's my show and I'll do what I want to. I'm like maybe 10 years old. My dad had a hardware store. Next to our hardware store was Gadsden Furniture. And I'd walk up the back road area behind the back lot of the store. And I would see this Corvette, and it had the little sticker in the back window of the Playboy bunny with the rabbit ear Playboy bunny. And even at the tender age of like 10 years old, I knew what the Playboy bunny was because I'm a child of the 60s, baby. And all that implies. Anyway, so I just was.
I just read something really funny. I'm on YouTube. I'm trying to find your live stream still, by the way.
Go to Max's
but
Models and click
there's
live.
Well, there's a thing that came up. It says people also ask, and it says, "Who is Max Models?" Max Models is South Africa's top modeling agency.
That's Ken. That's the one I was talking about earlier. It's South Africa.
Yeah,
I thought it was
talking about that earlier in the live stream.
that I keep getting some really scary stuff. You know, I'm like, don't send me these pictures. Well, these pictures are so risque, I can barely look at them.
Send it to me. I'll look at it.
Knockoffs?
Guys, I'm kidding. I haven't gotten one of those emails in 3 or 4 years. But anyway, occasionally they get me confused with Max Models. And there might be a Max's Models in Germany, but that's aside that. Yeah, it's a modeling agency, and that has resulted in a few resumes that I'm like, that's nice, but what does that got to do with Revell Aurora and Monogram?
Where do you put the glue?
What do you think's holding the pasties
I gotta
on?
go there.
Oh, God, you just had to go there. I know we're going long, guys, and I don't care. But yeah, we're losing people.
They're fleeing fast.
Any wonder?
Rats sinking ship. Anyway, so
We're dropping faster than Budweiser stock.
oh, too soon.
Oh, there we go.
Anyway, guys, well, look, we've had a really good time this evening. Ken, I'm glad you got to ride in a vet. Long story short, I think it was a 64, 65, or 66, okay? The year would have been about 1970, 71. And turns out that the car belonged to the son of the owner of the business next door. And I was dying to go for a ride in it. So my dad asked him, my dad talked to the guy in the business next door. He said, yeah, my son would be happy to give him a ride in it. But my dad, being a smart guy, had better sense than to let some 18, 19-year-old kid who could get a secondhand vet go with his 10-year-old son, 9-year-old, whatever I was, unprotected, so to speak. And so he said, I'll ride along with you, basically as a chaperone. Well, of course, it has 2 seats. My dad, and I didn't appreciate what he was doing at the time. I thought Dad wants to go for a ride in the car too. He literally curled up in the back. My dad curled up in the back behind the 2 seats in the little baggage area. And basically he was there to make sure this guy didn't have an accident. And because a teenager loves nothing better than an opportunity to show off in front of young guys, right? And he did punch it up to 90.
Or girls.
Well, he'll kill himself showing off to girls. He'll injure himself showing off to other younger guys. That's the way teenagers are. Ken, we were both there. We all did stupid stuff in front of girls. Well, no, we all did stupid stuff in front of younger guys. We all did stupider stuff in front of girls.
Of course. It's a way of life.
This is how, yeah, Kuna Matata, baby. This is how it works. Anyway, my dad curled up in the fetal position back there, and we did get up to 90 on a 2-lane road, and that puppy would scoot. And I'm sitting there with a stupid grin on my face, completely oblivious to the danger we're in. And by the way, this is back before cars had mandatory seat belts.
And really fast cars have park pegs in the back seat.
Yeah. But anyway, I just, that was my first ride in a vet. And I didn't ride in a vet again. I didn't ride in a vet again for 40 years. Then I drove that, I guess it was a C5, I guess a late 70s model, early 80s. And it was because of the way those seats are designed, it was the most uncomfortable thing I ever sat in. And you're right, Ken, it is my plus-size body that made it so bad. But everybody said that they were rougher. And I did ride in a vet when I was in the Army, because I knew a guy had the 25th anniversary, the first one with the half moon back window. And I remember riding with him, and it wasn't as uncomfortable. I was slenderer and younger back then. But still, I didn't find it particularly impressive. I mean, it was great on performance. I didn't find it impressive for comfort. But then, they're sports cars. They're not made for comfort.
No, they're made for going fast and getting girls.
There you go. And people talk about there's nothing more pathetic. There's nothing more pathetic than a middle-aged guy, in a sports car convertible, with a big wristwatch driving around. I'm kind of like, I don't give a crap what people think when I drive the Mustang. Screw them. I'm having a good time. I ain't out to pick up anybody. I'm just out to enjoy the breeze and what's left of my hair and pump the glue fumes.
I like what Nathan says. He says, let's be honest, the only reason that any of us are here is because we had older, wiser fathers that said, maybe we shouldn't do that.
No, that didn't apply in my case.
There is no faster way to get a kid to do something than to tell them no. What I've learned to tell them is, you bust your ass, I ain't paying for it. Well,
oh, really?
It didn't work, but...
Wendell, do you see this Wendell lib? A 36?
I'm reading it. Slept through a 64 vet crash into a tree 10 feet from my bedroom window. Pieces were in my room.
All right. Look, since you guys brought that up, I'm going to share, and I warn you now, you may want to turn the computer off now and stop listening. This is honestly, legitimately a gruesome story. This is back when I was a cop.
We're going to sell gory stories now after I got to ride in a vet?
Well, it's related.
And then we're going to do Can You Top This?
Yeah, well, I saw a guy eat his own arm at gunpoint. I think I was working a detail or working dispatch, I forget. Anyway, I was in Alexandria, Virginia, and the Fairfax police were in a high-speed pursuit. And I don't know if I think they knew who they were chasing. And he was very problematic youth. And he had said he'd been in jail several times, and he'd said he was never going to let the cops take him again. And we're talking about 130, 140 mile an hour pursuit. We're talking about half dozen Fairfax police cruisers with their pedals on the floor, trying to keep up with this guy. No, they had we had the K cars. They had real cruisers. They had Crown Vics and Caprices. Now, admittedly,
by the way, Roy says it all. This is Max After Hours.
Yeah, guys, the Max's Model live stream is now over. We are now into the after show. So if the viewership's gone down by about 20, but hey, I get it. We're not even talking about models anymore, so I don't blame them. Plus, some folks,
families.
Well, also we got people watching from all over the globe. I mean, God knows what time. Some of these people will be watching at 6 a.m. Anyway, and by the way, thank you for that.
What a way to start the day.
So anyway, the kid had said he would never be taken alive, and to his immortal credit, he lived up to that threat. He kept the hammer down. He had about a half dozen Fairfax cruisers after him, Crown Vics, Caprices, and they had it hammered. But with those big, back in the late 80s, we had the big square light bars, which were when you got above about 60 miles an hour, you could feel them pulling on the car. These guys were going way faster than that. So the parasite drag of those things was unreal. That's one of the reasons that led to the development of the Jet Sonic light bar. But anyway, though you would eventually see those low profile light bars, and then they started putting lights inside, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, he was leaving them, and our guys were under strict instructions not to pick up the chase. They were in hot pursuit on a felony. They could follow him. They didn't want any of our cruisers getting involved in this nonsense, which is basically like telling a cowboy not to ride a wild horse. Anyway, I'm
sure all those guys had big grins on their faces too.
Well, they came flying through Alexandria, and our guys could not even catch up to them from a dead stop. I mean, they went by at 100 plus. Our guys tried to join the chase, and they had so much distance that, they came up after. Now, I went down there and saw this in person. I think I was working a dispatch that night. I went down and saw the crash scene in person, and yes, he was killed. Ken, you know the lower end of King Street, right, in Alexandria?
Vaguely.
You know King Street, it goes all the way down to the water where you used to have that paddle boat, the Dandy, the river boat that did the river cruises. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
King Street
the Kennedy boat.
Well, the King. Hey, if Teddy Kennedy had been driving a Volkswagen, he'd have been president. King Street runs basically east to west through Alexandria and basically ends at the Potomac River, at the marina. And this kid, the lower end of King Street, I think was the last 4 blocks. Anyway, and it's hilly. And this kid was going so fast that he soared off of one of the intersections. The car went completely airborne. Okay. We're talking Streets of San Francisco stuff, if you guys remember that old show. At 100 plus, and I'm guessing he was doing 120-ish. He was driving something like he was also driving a big American sedan with a V8, like a Caprice or something. It went airborne, hit a tree that was on the sidewalk, and a pretty robust tree, which brought him to an immediate stop. This was not a small tree. These trees in Old Town Alexandria have been there a long time. They're pretty big. Crushed the front end of the car, killed him instantly. This is before the day of airbags. Airbags were coming out on the new cars, but he was driving something a little bit older. He hit so hard that engine wound up in the middle of the engine bay. The engine came in to the cockpit. Parts of the car shot outward like projectiles, like cannon, like grape shot. Knocked out windows in the businesses 4 feet above the ground. That's how, airborne he was. When I went and I got there because I went there immediately after it happened. And of course, our guys, the Fairfax cruisers are all around him. Our guys pull up afterwards, and since it's our jurisdiction, they got to do all the paperwork. Interdepartmental, multi-jurisdictional, a real freaking nightmare. I was glad I was nothing but a person who walked up afterwards. Fire department pronounced him at the scene, which is a rare thing to do, but in that case, there wasn't any doubt about it. They had it. I got there before they covered him up, took a look, and amazing the position.
They found him?
Oh, he was still in the driver's seat.
There was that much left of him?
Oh, no, he was still in one piece. There was no blood.
No, because the steering wheel impaled him and kept him in one spot.
It didn't actually impale him. And guys, I really think you might want to sign off if you don't want to know more than you want to know. Yeah, people are bailing left and right now. I don't blame them.
Well, you can stop talking.
Ken, you've known me for 40 years. When have I ever been able to do that?
Stop that exploding.
No, he didn't explode. His body was completely contained.
You.
What? Oh, I can't stop talking without exploding. Yeah. I'm pretty sure if I stop talking, I have to go to the bathroom. But it's flying out of one end or the other. But I didn't really see any blood to speak of. There was no, but he hit the steering wheel, and he and the steering wheel just kind of formed into one thing, and it was like a painting by Salvador Dali. You remember the melting clocks?
It was like a unicorn, is what you're saying.
You know the melting clocks. The whole, it was just everything had sort of merged, and and the funny thing was, looking at it, I was kind of like, here's the funny part: it's never bothered me, never, not one bit, because I'm like, guy knew what he was doing. He decided he was going to go out in a blaze of glory. This is what happened. All of us are nothing but a walking bunch of packed hydrocarbons. So, okay. I looked at it. Well, no loss there. And went on my merry way. I felt sorrier for his parents than anything else. But,
yeah, they probably own the car.
Oh, wow. Dadgum, Steve. Even I didn't make that connection. Leave it to a New Yorker.
There's a knock on the door. Excuse me, your car was totaled. Oh, shit, but your son was driving it when it was totaled. I'll kick his ass. Sorry. The car beat
I'm sorry, the tree beat you to it.
John Jones says, I hope Max doesn't turn this into a diorama.
No. Although if you're going to do that, you need some heat to melt the styrene. But, no, I am definitely not going to do that. I haven't thought about that in years. And but anyway, you know what we might do on the next live stream if we're going to do this henceforth? We might end the live stream, turn it off, and then come back on and do the after show.
I like that idea.
And guys, seriously, you're officially in the after show. The Max's Models live stream is over. We are now just yakking.
You know what my new favorite guilty pleasure is?
Oh dear God. Do I want to know?
I like to watch the channel on YouTube that has all the car chases from California.
Okay, why not?
The ones where they chase him, and they have it with the helicopter, and they show the guy, and it shows how many cops are chasing him and what he does, and that he actually thinks he's going to get away. Everybody thinks they're OJ when they do this, like they're getting a police escort. No.
The crowd just said something interesting.
What's
Darwin had a hand in that one.
Yeah. Well, look, when I was young...
Hey, you know what Jeremy Clarkson always says?
What's that?
It's not the speed that kills you, it's the sudden stop.
It's a sudden stop. We used to say that in skydiving. And sadly, I know a couple of guys that bounced. But I used to skydive in my immortal youth. I mean, I've got the pictures right here on the wall. But... it's weird, it's funny. A lot of us, when I was young, I was an adventure seeker. And as you get older, and you've done all these things, you kind of realize that, hey, you know what, you actually can get hurt and you are mortal, and, you start kind of losing interest in that stuff. And, but I don't know. I've had a lot of cool adventures. I wouldn't trade them. There are a lot of people ask if you could go back in time. What's that?
That's because you live to tell about it.
Well, this is true. But, a lot of people think that, if I could go back and change one thing. And I'm like, you never know. There's an episode of Star Trek about that where Picard goes back and changes an incident where he got stabbed, and all of a sudden his life takes an entirely different tack. I like where I'm at. And if somebody said, would you like to go back and change this? My concern would be, well, I don't, let's say, for example, I didn't make that parachute jump where I got injured.
Garfield Smith says the inertia dampers failed.
Yeah. There's a real danger in changing. We all know where we ended up. And if you're totally unhappy where you ended up, you probably would change your past. But if you're happy with where you're at, changing it could make things radically, you think, oh, if I hadn't done this, I wouldn't have made the mistake. Life would have been so much better. Maybe.
Now, see, if I could go back, the only way I would go back is if I had the sports book that Biff Tanner had.
Oh, the Sports Almanac?
The Sports Almanac.
Just
it is.
bet on everything.
Here, JH just said I crewed on a J-30 sailboat during the Block Island race week in '82 when we lost a stanchion and had to motor back through gigantic waves to Newport, Rhode Island. Wild time. Yeah, I can kind of empathize with that.
Well, I'll tell you what.
It's not a very big boat. It's fast, but it's not very big.
If we're going to keep going, I have to get more cough medicine, so I'll be right back. You guys carry the show.
Okay.
I'll be back in
All right.
3 minutes. Or ish.
Oh, we can do that easy.
Okay. And
6 weeks in the ICU and another month in rehab. You mustn't have been going that fast, Roy.
You can't outrun a Motorola. But I've heard them end in death. Okay.
The crowd says just bet the Nets in '69.
Oh, there you go.
And the Jets, too, for that matter.
Yeah, I know about the not renting cars to younger than 25.
Yeah.
We tried to do
Now
that once.
Now 21.
Oh. We wanted to rent a limo for the prom, the senior prom.
Yeah.
Because we all wanted to go in one car, but they said no.
Not going to happen.
We had to get a driver up front, and none of us could afford that.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, so what's happening? What were you guys talking about before?
We were talking about a lot of things. We started talking about kids that never were, and why weren't they? We talked about the minnow.
I see that. Is somebody going to make a model of the minnow beached on the beach?
No, there were two kids of the same boat that allegedly was the boat that was the minnow, but nobody ever made it as a license. So the questions were, why didn't they do that? And my take was, which I had some people that agreed with me, some didn't, was that, pleasure boats were not a popular, theme for model kits in that time. And Revell had done one in the 50s of a Chris Craft cruiser, and it wasn't very successful. So, although the kits were made, one was made by ITC and one was made by Aurora, they never licensed it for Gilligan's Island.
Looking at these pictures that Max put up there, and none of these boats are the same.
No, they're not. No.
They're all different.
No, they're all different boats. Yes, they are. Yeah.
Well, one of them is obviously a CGI.
No, they're not CGIs. No.
The one on the bottom right is not CG?
No, it's a
They
picture
didn't have
of one that
CG
they
back
built
then,
on the
Ken.
back line.
Ah, okay. Yeah, well, that was different from the one that they showed above.
It's a prop
too.
boat. It's a hollow shell they made.
Yeah. So Lance just nailed it. He says, get a rent-a-car and drive it like you stole it. Now,
I don't know. If you rent from Hertz, odds are you will get accused of stealing it.
Now, when I was in the corporate world, we had a different saying. It was called "No curb too high, no pothole too deep."
Okay, who wants to hear a cop story? Okay. So it's been 40 years, so I can admit this. Well, but it was known at the time, so it's not like. So there's a burglary call, right? And I'm hauling butt, light and siren. There's an old saying that, being a cop ain't all driving fast and wearing a big hat. So I am doing 90, trying to get to this burglary call, and there are other officers closer. And I'm just a backup officer, but, still you take officers, you think officer safety, I need to back my brother officer up. But at the same time and it's 2 a.m. It's not much traffic. But it's a 4-lane, 2 each way, but there are 2 cars side by side in front of me, and one of them's a Corvette, right? And you guys are going to love this. Speaking of Corvettes, Ken, you may already know this story, but if not, Steve, you guys are going to just love this. I go flying up behind him, expecting him to pull over, and they both hit their brake lights, right?
Whoops.
There is no freaking way I'm getting this Crown Vic stopped before I go careening into one of them. So I just screw it. I go on the sidewalk. It's 2 a.m.
There you go.
Hold on. Hold on. We're just getting started. By the way, I was like 24 years old. This is why you should not hire 24-year-olds to be police officers. Anyway.
The crowd says, these stories usually start with, there we were at Duncan's.
I can assure you that none of us at APD... Hold on. I can assure you with 100% certainty that none of us at APD hung out in donut shops because we didn't have any. It was 7-Elevens.
Have you seen the thing going around where the cop pulls over this kid and he looks at the cop and the cop says to him, your eyes look, he says to him, your breath smells of marijuana. And the kid looks at the cop and he goes, your eyes look glazed. Were you eating donuts? and then the last part of it is, and yes, Your Honor, that is what I said to him.
I will tell you right now, if you can make the officer laugh, you have a 50% chance of getting out of whatever it is. As long as it's not a DUI. But anyway, so I go sailing over the sidewalk. Luckily for me, there is one of those, it had the handicap ramp. So my right wheel goes up over the handicap ramp. One wheel stayed on the road. One went over the sidewalk, and I got out in front of him, and I'm backing up another officer. I just kept going. But Steve, this is the part you're going to love. Ken, you too. The guy in the Corvette chases me. I swear as God is my witness, he's so outraged about this cop driving up on the, that he chases me. We go on the burglary call. I pull over, lights going. I kill the siren. We get close. Kill the lights, jump out, draw my gun, run to back up the other officer. Sure enough, turns out to be false alarm. It was a residential thing. It was just an alarm. It was a non-call. So I go back to my cruiser, and this guy is sitting across the street leaning against his Corvette on one of the early brick-type cell phones. He wants to speak to the supervisor, so he grabs the lieutenant and just, this guy, da, 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 da. And the lieutenant comes, did you do this? Did you do this? Yes, I did, And I said, well, because they both stopped. Neither one of them pulled over. They didn't yield. They just stopped. They panicked, and they stopped. They had to go around to keep from hitting them. And I said, hell, I ought to write him a ticket for impeding the officer. And the lieutenant was like, no, you are not even going to think about doing that. So the lieutenant appeases the guy, explains to him that, look, you guys were supposed to pull over, but instead you both stopped. And to his credit, the guy in the Corvette was in the right lane. It was the other guy that should have pulled over. But he goes, look, you got a right to be outraged, but the officer was speeding to back up another officer. You guys both stopped. You blocked his path. He couldn't get stopped. Da, da, da. And the guy was right. I should have slowed up when I got close to him. I shouldn't have been flying up there just expecting them to pull over. Because people panic when they see lights and sirens, and they hit the brakes. And
especially if you're driving a vet and the cop comes flying up behind you with his lights on.
No, it was just me being I'll say this point blank. It was me being a dumbass 24-year-old. I'm driving out of my way. How dare you not do what I need you to do? Because I was just a dumbass. Well, I thought it had all gone away. And then a couple of days later, Lieutenant Urich, who was the lieutenant who handled this, just goes, you have any idea how much paperwork cost me? I said, what? I thought the guy didn't file a complaint. He goes, he didn't. But after what happened, I got a call from the motor pool. There was a big dent in the bottom of your transmission tray. Your oil pan had a 4-foot crease in it. Oh, what do you know? I guess I didn't clear that curb. I can laugh about it now.
You must have really shot out some sparks.
I don't think so. It was pretty greasy. Those are beat up police cars, Oh, no. Okay. Since you said that, Ken, you just bought yourself another cop story. Okay.
Oh, goody.
I have one.
Well, if you don't want to hear it, never mind. I'll just keep it to myself.
This is Max's show.
Oh, all right.
No, this is Max's after show. Yeah, we've lost 50 people.
Where the cops had started kicking in.
We've lost 50 people. Trust me. This is totally the after show. This is for the hardcore.
I'm on the New York State Thruway. It's like 1983, 84. The speed limit's 50.
Hold on. Before you get there, real quick. Ricky, I'm glad you're back home. I hope you're feeling better. Okay, go ahead.
That's when they had this big national thing that the speed limit should only be 50, remember?
55. Saving
gas, all that crap, remember? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I go visit a customer of mine in Utica, New York, who's a really good friend of mine. We spend some time, have lunch. Now I'm driving to Albany. I'm on the Thruway, and I had an 83 Cutlass Supreme that the speedometer only went up to like 85.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I remember those.
And the needle is buried off the speedometer.
I was only going 85.
And I look in the mirror and I see this dot, because it's, New York State Thruway is straight as an arrow and it's a clear day. And this dot starts getting really big really fast. And I said, I think I better slow down, but I'm not going to touch the brakes. So I just take my foot off the gas. And I get down to about 65, and this car comes up behind me, gives me the lights, pulls me over. It's a woman state trooper.
You're done.
Uh-oh.
You're toast.
So she walks up to the car. I put the window down. She goes, good afternoon. I said, good afternoon, officer. She says, perhaps you're wondering why I pulled you over. And I said, okay, no, I don't know why you pulled me over. She says, we got you doing 115 and a 50. Ooh. And I looked at her and I said, that's impossible. The speedometer on this car only goes up to 85. I said, and I had the cruise control set. I said, how did you come up with such a ridiculous number? She says, stick your head out the window. I said, excuse me? She goes, stick your head out the window. So I stick my head out the window. She goes, now look up. I look up. There's the plane.
Mm-hmm. I got tagged by an airplane.
Okay. So I'm shocked she didn't take me right in. Okay? Because this is like a big 115 and a 50 is like a big, thing.
Yeah.
Gives me a ticket, and now we're talking this is before cell phones. So I get off at the next rest stop, and I go in and, remember payphones? And I call up my friend, and I said, listen, I just got pulled over on the Thruway for speeding. I said, do you know anybody who could help me out with this thing? He goes, well, who's the judge? So I tell him, he goes, oh, that's my uncle. So he says, give me the phone number where you are, don't move, and I'll have him call you. Okay, so I hang up. And about 10 minutes later, the phone rings, and I pick it up, and the guy goes, well, howdy. He goes, is this Steve Manoia? I said, yes, I am. He goes, well, he goes, aren't we a regular Mario Andretti? And I said, well, I think maybe the equipment could have been a little out of adjustment. He goes, don't you worry about it, son. You're a friend of my nephew. He said, gives me directions. I write them down. He says, come over to the court and we'll straighten this out. I drive to the court. It's attached to his house. Okay? And he says to me,
how convenient.
He says, let me see. He says, Officer Wilkins, she's a real bitch, isn't she? Well, I said, I didn't get that much of a discussion with her, but I'll take your word for it. So he says, why don't we just make this go away? I was like, I'm for that. He goes, why don't you just give me $160? Now, we're talking this is 1983. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Give me $160 and this will never have happened. And I said, will you take a check? Because I don't have that much cash. He goes, why not? You're my nephew's friend. It's like, okay. I had another one. Again, I'm going upstate, and I'm driving up the Taconic Parkway. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but it's sort of.
Are we starting to see a pattern here, Steve?
Yes, you were. Yes. I have another story that leads to out of this, and it's kind of a parkway. It's 2 lanes each way. It has a big divider in the middle, grass and trees, and every so often there's a gas station which is in the middle, so you don't have to build 2 of them on each side of the road. And I'm driving upstate, so I leave really early in the morning. It's about 4:30 in the morning. And I come up over this hill, and on the other side of the hill is a gas station. And the cop's sitting there pointing up at the top of the hill with his radar. And my radar detector goes right off the scale, and I'm blinded by lights. And so I pull over into the thing, and he comes over and he goes, well, before your radar detector went off, I got you doing 75 and a 50. And I was like, oh. So I worked for CBS Toys, which was a division of CBS. And they had a corporate store, and we used to be able to buy stuff. So I had a couple of CBS Sports baseball caps in the back window tray of the car. And the guy, he looks at the register, he goes, CBS? He goes, is this like, like CBS? I said, yeah. I said, I work for CBS Sports. He goes, oh, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm driving up to Cooperstown, and we're filming a segment. It's going to be on the NFL Today on September 9th. And he goes, oh. And I said, would you like a cap? And he goes, oh, wow, that's really nice. He goes, listen, just keep it down like about 60 and you'll be okay. He goes, just keep it down. Well, I pulled out there. I was laughing for the next hour because I got rid of that one. And no, yes, it was a pattern, Ken. And in New York State, if you get 3 speeding tickets within 18 months, you have to surrender your license.
How
so I
close
got
were you?
2. What's that?
How close were you?
Well, I had gotten 2, and I had already been to court for both of them, and had to pay. And I got a 3rd one. So I said, well, I'll postpone the court date, so I'm out of the 18-month window. And I get a letter saying, you have 10 days to turn in your license. So I called them up and I said, wait a minute. I haven't been to court on this. I haven't been convicted. They go, we don't care. You got 10 days to hand in your license. So I'm like, well, this is not going to work. So I called up my brother, who was in the Navy in Virginia Beach. And I said to him, how many guys on the boat, do they lose their license? He goes, oh, yeah, they all the time. I said, can they get another one? He goes, yeah, you just go down to DMV, you take the test, you get a Virginia license. I said, I'll be down tomorrow. I said, pick me up. This is the flight I'm going to be on. I got the air travel guide. I pick a flight. Okay. So I fly down, and he's there, and he picks me up, and he says, I got the book from DMV. He says, I just took the test like 2 months ago. He goes, they asked me. I said, well, they changed the test. They're not going to ask the same questions. But I sit down. It's the exact same test he took 2 months before. So to make it look good, I get one wrong. Okay? So now you have to go do the driving test. So I wait, and the guy calls my name, and you go out and get in the car. Now I have to make it look like I've just gotten to drive a car. Like I've just learned, so I have to use both hands, and I have to look, and this and that, and all that stuff. So I drive, and we come back. So now we come back, and you sit in this room, and they have a tractor feed printer. And so you hear the printer go, and they call people up, they give them their license. We're sitting there for like 20 minutes and haven't been called. And I'm starting to get a little nervous. And my brother goes, maybe they found out, information from New York. I said, well, if they did, we're both going to jail. Okay? All of a sudden, the tractor printer goes off for 5 minutes. It's just print. He leans over, he goes, they must have got your driving record from New York. And so now it's quiet, and then the printer comes back on again. They call me up. Congratulations, here's your license. So I had that, and then I went to New York. I gave them back my New York license, and that was suspended for 6 months. And then when I got that back, I had both of them because they weren't on the computer back then. So depending upon where I got pulled over was which license I would give.
Lucky number 7. If you sent Max a bow mark, that's the one.
Ooh.
He was just asking if that was his box lid on the wall.
Probably.
Yeah. All right, Max is rested.
Okay, guys, I have a news flash for you. Somebody sent me an email that said that the whole Canadian MiG-21 thing is an internet hoax, and that the MiG-21 Russia's under was never flown by the Canadian military. So apparently it was let's see. Well, now I'm confused. National Air Force Museum of Canada, MiG-21. The MiG-21 Russian designed aircraft was never flown by the Canadian military. So apparently that might be an elaborate hoax. I don't know. I don't know what to make out of it. Now I'm completely confused. Red Hawk Story Aviation Geek at theaviationgeekclub.com. It has everything that was in that video that I saw that I talked about. Danger of trusting the internet. And at the very bottom, there's a picture that says, scrolling on down here. April Fools. Sorry. April Fools. Canada has always, the United States has never operated Soviet-built aircraft. So maybe it's all Photoshop.
Going back to the driver's license thing, here's a little piece of trivia. In Georgia, when you get a ticket, they take your driver's license and they give you a little piece of paper that's essentially a copy of the ticket.
That happened to me in Tennessee. I got pulled over by Tennessee State Trooper Boone. And he took my license, gave me a yellow slip that was a receipt. He says, if you get stopped by the police, give them this. It'll show that I have your license. When you pay the ticket, they mail your license back.
Huh. Yeah, well, in Georgia, they staple the ticket to your license.
Ew.
So, depending on how many tickets you got, you might have quite a few holes in your license.
That might be how they know how many times you've been pulled over.
It might be. You give them your driver's license and about 20 holes in it. Okay.
One time in New York, I'm going over the Bronx Neck Bridge. It's 5:15 in the afternoon. You can barely walk across the bridge. This cop pulls me over and gives me a speeding ticket. I said, "Are you serious? The traffic is bumper to bumper." So I said, "Well, I'm gonna plead not guilty. I'm going to court on this." So I go to traffic court. Now in New York, they don't have real judges. They have lawyers, and they're kind of like arbitrators. So I go in, and everybody's doing their case. Of course, the guy before me he has like, they got him on like 36 things that he like never responded to. So they give him ridiculous fine and they sentence him to jail time, and he starts, I'm not going, and who do you... Three of the biggest black court officers I ever saw in my life come in and just grab this guy and just drag him out of the car, and he's screaming the entire way, and I'm like, oh, and I have to go now. So now it's my turn, and the cop gets up, and I saw the car coming, and I picked up my gun, and I got the speed, and I put it down, and I put my hat on, and so okay, so now it's my turn, so I get to cross-examine him. So I said, what was the range you had the gun set on? He goes, 100 feet. So I said, and from the time you saw the car, turned on the gun, got the speed, put it down, and put your hat on and get out of the car, I said, how long did that take you? He goes, about 30 seconds. I said, well, you said I was doing 76 miles an hour. I said, that means I'm going this many feet a second. I said, so by the time you got out of the car, I would have been in Connecticut. And the guy who's the referee goes, very good, Mr. Manoia, guilty. I was like, what? I was like, I just proved that. So I said, no, and I appealed. I won on appeal.
Oh. Well, the lower court's just there to try and extract cash.
Exactly. Well, that's like here. You get a ticket in Delaware, so they let you plead to a non-points ticket. And you go, okay, yeah. How much is, okay, and the fine is $20. And the court processing fee is $79.95. So I said, why don't you just tell me it was 100 and make me feel better,
Well, don't get me started on all that.
Traffic court in Norfolk, Virginia had a wire window screened cage for sailors and bikers.
Yep.
I have a real problem with profit policing, which is...
Oh, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing here. The Department of Transportation of the state lowered all the speed limits through all the towns. They lowered them from 40 to 25. Didn't tell anybody.
Of course not. Well, listen,
the
guys.
Cops went to town. They just started writing tickets like crazy. Yeah. And everybody's like berserk about it.
Well, that's when you start voting out city fathers. That's the only way they learn is you don't get me started on this subject. It irritates me no end.
Okay.
Anytime you have a municipality that's making its money off of traffic, Ferguson's a classic example. Half their city budget came from traffic tickets. That is never a good sign. And Chiefland, Florida, was so bad about it that it's one of the reasons that Florida lost its municipal courts. And the state troopers used to love those things. You remember the old Western Union commercials? Could you send the money now with the trooper standing behind the person on the phone?
Yeah.
That wasn't an exaggeration. Those were municipal courts. And we lament many things about our youth because we're young and we're ignorant to a great deal. But in many ways, the old system was terrible in many, many ways, and it was corrupt. And at least today, personally, if I had my druthers, if somebody made me president, the first thing I do is ban civil asset forfeiture unless you get a conviction, because because the law enforcement are motivated to simply take your property, make you fight to get it back on. And they don't even charge you. We just suspect. We suspect conspiracy to do this. We suspect you were doing that. So we're going to take this, and we're going to take your $2,000 or $3,000 in cash that you had on you, and it cost you $8,000 to get it back in lawyer fees. And a few people have done it just as a matter of purpose. But Mooresville, South Carolina, that crap down there, $16,000. The guy happened to be carrying a lot of cash with him in his bag. Remember this: if you get stopped by the police, you mind if we look in your car? Yeah, I mind. Well, why do you mind? Fourth Amendment, privacy. I mind. I don't have to say anything else. But it's gotten out of hand in some places. I'm glad I live in a state, Florida, they don't allow that crap. But a lot of states do. And
what about the people in California that they went in and they opened their safe deposit boxes and took all their stuff?
Oh, no. They did way more than that. You talking about Vault?
Yeah.
They did way more than that, man. They were bashing them open.
Now they're trying to get their stuff back, and they're suing, and they're not getting anywhere.
Now, don't get me wrong. There was criminal activity, and there were people in there who had criminal enterprises, but the innocent people got caught up. And the government's attitude is, we got your stuff, fight to get it back. That is just wrong. And before anybody asks, I would much rather let some guilty people go than persecute some innocent people. That's kind of the way our system works, is that I would rather let 100 guilty men go than incarcerate one innocent man. And but take it from
Phaser One says we need a second Max Police channel.
I know.
Don't get me started on that. Don't get me wrong. I got to be careful I say this. There are a lot of good cops out there doing honest work, but look, you can have a punch bowl the size of an Olympic swimming pool, drop one turd in it, and no one will drink from it. So,
okay, that's not what I want in my head right now.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Did you ever see? Oh, go ahead, Ken.
I was going to say, I got a really weird story. And it happened from a car accident.
Tell me, Ken, does it involve a blindfold, sheep, and handcuffs?
That's another story. Anyway, so here I am. I'm on my way to go to a customer's to fix their computer system, and a fire truck pulls out from the right, and he stops. And I thought, oh, he's going to let us go around him. Well, I didn't hit my brakes fast enough. The car in front of me decided that he was going to let him go, so I rear-end the guy, and I end up totaling my car. So here I am, sitting alongside the road, wondering what I'm going to do about my car, which now no longer runs. And police officer comes over to me and says, "Can we talk to you for a second?" My son was with me, so he wanted to take me over to the side, so my son didn't hear what he had to say. And I was like, "Yeah, okay, what?" He said, "We have a warrant here for your a bench warrant for your arrest."
Oh, it's that other Ken Mix, wasn't it?
Can I tell the story?
Go ahead.
Don't you interrupt. You be quiet. Because I know you both know the story. So anyway, he says, "We have a bench warrant for your arrest in Illinois." And I said, "I've never even been to Illinois in the past 10 years. How can I have a bench warrant?" And he said, "Well, you skipped out on bond, not bond,
bail,
not bail. What's that thing when they let you out for a
ROR,
while?
released on recognizance.
Yeah. And you didn't show up when you're supposed to.
FTA, failure to appear.
I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, we don't have reciprocity with Illinois, so we're not gonna arrest you." I said, "Well, good, because I've never been there." So my car doesn't run. I need a ride down the street to get my wife's car, who's working just down the street. Fortunately, it wasn't very far away. So I asked the cops, "Can you please give me and my son a ride down to here?" It was only about 2 or 3 miles. And they said, "Yeah, sure." So I get in the front seat, and they've got the information from this bench warrant sitting up on the screen. And I'm looking at it, and he's got my first and my last name on there. And he's showing this information for this guy. He says he's 6'2", I'm 6'1". He's got blue eyes, I got brown. Doesn't really match, but anyway. So I said, "Who is this guy?" "Oh, he's the guy that didn't fail to appear in Illinois." And I said, "Well, that's not me. Obviously, it's not me. My description doesn't match." Okay, fine. So anyway.
But he had your date of birth, right?
Take care of the thing.
He has your date of birth.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
that's
Okay,
just bad luck.
I'm getting to that part. Okay, so stick with me, people. Don't hang up yet. There's an interesting story here. Okay, so a few months later, I go to apply for this job, and they do a background check, and they come back and they say, "I'm sorry, we can't hire you. You have an arrest
Warrant, yeah.
arrest warrant in Illinois." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I've never been to Illinois. Well, it turns out there's a guy in Illinois. He's got my same last and first name and my exact same birthday.
Ooh.
Month, day, and year. Okay? And it gets weirder than that.
That's
This
like
guy's
July
middle
3rd,
name-
1843 or something?
What's that?
That's like July 3rd, 1843?
Something like that, yeah. Okay. Gets weirder. This guy's middle name is Joseph. My name is Edward. Now, I got the name Edward because when my mom was very young before she had me, she got
Nobody
in a really
cares.
bad car accident. What?
Nobody cares.
Shut up. I'm telling the story. Anyway, so the doctor that saved her life, his name was Joseph Edward. This guy's middle name was Joseph. My name is Edward. Isn't that just kind of creepy?
Yeah, it's well, that ain't exactly the Great Styrene River, but there's something in there.
Yeah, it's just weird, because if my mom had liked the name Joseph, I would have had the exact same name and birthday as this guy.
Ken, let me explain what happened to you, so it's
And
clear.
you're telling this story to your cellmate right now.
Okay, hold on. Okay, that, Ken, you got to admit, that was a good one. Ken, let me explain what happened to you so that because I don't want you to suffer. I want you to know why this is happening to you. Ken, you're a good-natured person who never goes out of his way to hurt anyone. You're kind to all people. You've done great, wonderful things taking care of wayward people like Mike, and the others. And you really try to...
You're like a Disney character.
You are. And you really do. Ken, you really do try... You really do try to make the world a better place than you found it. And the universe can't
As long as
have...
it's not dopey, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, but Ken, you try to make the universe a better place than you found it, and the universe can't have that. So you have to be spanked once in a while, and not in the good way. Not in the middle-aged lady in a uniform putting you over her knee way, but in the. But in the, oh crap, I'm gonna have to explain to my cellmate I'm not really that guy way.
Well, Monica,
We are so far off the rails, the train is in the ditch, and at some point I'll be trying to deny all this at the hearing. Well, guys, we've been going on, you realize we've been going on for 3 hours now, and I'm having a blast. I really enjoy myself, but...
Nathan Bond says, you obviously, Ken, in a previous life was Jack the Ripper, and now it's karma.
The karma boomerang comes back,
Now, see, this is a challenge. We should see how long we could make one of these go.
Oh, I'll bet you if we
So
stay till
got that
2 a.m.,
zero?
I'll guarantee if we stay till 2 a.m., we'd have at least 25 people on board. Half of whom would be asleep and just left their computer running, but which may be the case now. But listen, guys.
I can't look away.
It's like a train wreck. It's a painting of Kramer.
Look at the blood.
Well, anyway, guys, I think we have gone an hour into the after show, and I'm going to let all the glue troopers go. I'm going to loop the outro in case you guys want to chat to each other. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I had no intention of going this long, but what the heck? This thing went on autopilot a long time ago. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. For those hardcore troopers that are still out there, thanks for staying tuned in. For everybody else, hey, man, I hope you had a good time. Guys, take care of yourselves. And as always, model on.
The crowd says, I'm in.
Nathan goes, it's only 7 here in Arizona.
Yeah, well, it's going on 10 p.m. here, and
Adam says, I'm still awake.
I hit the wrong button on the sign off, so we're still going. I'm gonna give us two. Okay, I'm gonna give us 2 more minutes.
JM goes, push the button, Matt.
Okay, I have my finger on the button now. But you know, saying goodbye is such sweet sorrow. Parting is such sweet sorrow. Well, Ken and Steve, you guys want to say goodnight to everybody?
Good night, everybody, and thanks for coming in, and we'll see you next week.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for hanging around and let me have a chance to participate a little bit. Really appreciate that.
Sorry I spoiled your story, Ken. Guys, once again, thanks for joining us. Take care of yourselves, and as always, model on.